Welcome back, IB Nation, to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about keys to victory for Notre Dame in their matchup over Pitt. However, before we get there, Notre Dame just picked up a really big commitment from 2027 safety Khalil Terry. He's 5'11", he's 185 pounds, he's a four-star by On3, the number 130th ranked player in the country, the 13th best safety in the country. We're talking about Khalil Terry from California.
Not live yet again.
Gotcha. I wanted to make sure.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again. I don't know why it's doing that. It's very weird.
I don't know either.
Let's try this again.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Irish Breakdown Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And you know what we're talking about today? We're talking about the keys to victory in Notre Dame's matchup this Saturday against the Pittsburgh Panthers. Top 25 matchup, likely Notre Dame's last top 25 matchup of the regular season. But Bryan, before we get there, there's some exciting news. And we have a commitment today. 2027 safety Khalil Terry announced his commitment about a little over a half an hour ago.
And now you know why we waited till 2 o'clock to go live.
There's always a method to the madness. But Khalil Terry is a four-star safety commit rated by On3. He's a number 130th ranked player in the country, the 13th best safety according to On3. He's from Tustin High School in California. Bryan, another big commitment from Mike Denbrock. This is it's another quality, really high-end secondary piece to this starting the 2027 class.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like you almost expect it, right? Like, oh, Mike Mickens is going to have another good defensive back class. Oh, I'm so shocked. I mean, it's going to be another. This is a good one. I think this is an interesting one, Trev, because I would have said when he visited in April, I might have even said this publicly, like it's highly unlikely that I think Notre Dame's going to get a kid like Khalil Terry. Just, California kid, public school kid in California, just not an area where Notre Dame does well. And they did well, with Mike Mickens. And I think the success that we've seen from them in the secondary and the job that Mike Mickens has done has certainly played a big role in their ability to go out and get a kid like this. He visited for the Blue Gold game and, it went well, but you're just like, I don't really know if this is one that's going to, work out great for Notre Dame. And it ended up working out because, obviously I think Khalil Terry is a better fit for Notre Dame than maybe I thought at the very beginning. He really connected with the class. He really connected with the coaches. I think he sees the vision that Notre Dame has for what they're going to do with him. I think that was obviously very important. But I think also he saw the football fit and he sees what they're trying to do and how they plan on using him. So a real strong pickup. It's a really good way to kick off the secondary class. One thing I like about this early 27 class, Trev, is they're not like loading up at one spot. It's not like, they got 6 commitments now, but it's like 4 offensive linemen, a defensive lineman, and now they finally got a DB, right? You've got a quarterback, an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a linebacker, a snapper, and now a DB. And it's a heck of a way to kick off your 2027 class. I mean, and the other thing is you're getting some kids in this class from areas that Notre Dame maybe hasn't had as much success with in the past, right? Alabama, where Ellis McGaskin is from. You're now getting a public school skill player from California, just not an area where you've had as much success lately. So it's a pretty darn good start to the class, and they're just getting going. I mean, I expect a lot more commitments to be coming up over the next 4, 5, 6 months for this class. But obviously, Khalil Terry today is a very strong pickup, and we'll talk more about that here.
Well, you guys know how we're going to get down here. We're going to talk backstory. We're going to dive into some class impact. And as always, our favorite, we are going to watch some of Khalil Terry's film. And then we're going to wrap it all up with what's next before we start talking Notre Dame versus Pitt once again. But Bryan, like you said, earlier you said that you didn't think that, Notre Dame had much of a chance to land a kid like Khalil Terry, but here we are on November 12th. He announced his commitment around 1:30. So what all went into Terry committing to Notre Dame?
Well, this is just a typical Mike Mickens recruitment, which is, you ever see the movie Rounders? Okay, it's a great movie. It's a gambling movie. It's it's a poker movie. Matt Damon. And there's this thing he's explaining different type of gamblers, right? There's the guys that go all in. And then there's the guys that just like the slow guys, right? Like they just take, just kind of bust you up for hours. That's Mike Mickens as a recruiter. He's not the splashy guy. He's not the, like this personality of like, man, that guy is cool and hip and he says all the right things and he's just this really like personality, right? This bigger than life personality. And he doesn't come in with a bunch of empty promises. Oh, you come here and I'm going to turn you into an All-American, baby. And you're going to play as a freshman and all these different things that guys do. And wait till you see the NIL package that we have for you, brother. You're going to love it. That's not who he is, right? I'm going to be straight with you. I'm going to treat you like a man. I'm going to be honest with you. And we're going to build this relationship real. And there's two reasons why Mike Mickens is that way. Number one, that's just kind of his personality. He's just like, look, like I'm a father, I'm a husband. I'm not trying to act like I'm 18 again, just so I can impress some high school recruits. I want to be real with them. And I want them to understand when you come here, I'm your coach. I'm not your buddy. I'm not your friend. I'm your coach. And it's my job to develop you as a man and as a football player. So we're going to start that relationship now. And if you need me to tell you you're special and tell you you're pretty and all this other kind of stuff, then you're probably not going to thrive here. You know what I mean? At Notre Dame. And so it helps him kind of weed out some of the guys that are not about that life. You know what I mean? And then it's just about, let's talk. Let's talk about just how I see you. He's all about the marathon, right? I mean, Chris, our guy, Black Irish, Chris Galloway last night said, talked about how the playoff thing it's a sprint. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Well, that's how Mike Mickens handles recruiting. So it's just tick, 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 little bit of a time, having that relationship, selling the vision of how he's going to use you in the system, talking about how I'm going to develop you as a young man, talks about how I'm going to develop you as an athlete, talks about how I'm going to help the way that Notre Dame is going to develop you as a student and the opportunities here. And then, of course, there's the proof that's on the field on Saturdays. And also, I mean, Mike Mickens has had a tremendous ability to develop young players throughout his career. I mean, his first year at Notre Dame, Notre Dame ends up going and playing in the college football playoffs, and he's got a true freshman in Clarence Lewis starting for him. 2 years later, he's got a freshman All-American in Benjamin Morrison. The next year, Christian Gray and Jaden Mickey both play a lot as freshmen. The next year, it's Leonard Moore plays as a freshman. This year, you've got Mark Zachary and Dallas Golden both playing a ton as freshmen. So when he says, "Hey, if you come in and you compete and you're going to have a shot to win a job," well, when he says that to you, you can take that to the bank because he's got a long track record of that, even beyond Notre Dame. Sauce Gardner was a star as a freshman. Nick Johnson at Bowling Green was a second-team all-conference player as a true freshman when Mike Mickens was there. So it's just the whole package is there, and it's just about if you're want to be coached, want to be pushed, want to be challenged, want to be developed as a young man, this is the place for you. And I think in this day and age, more and more and more kids gravitate to that because it's like, I just want you to be real with me. And there's so much less. There's not a ton of that in recruiting. It's the sales pitch. It's the sales pitch. Well, Mike Mickens is the sales pitch is this is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, then maybe this isn't the place for you. And I mean, it's the long game, and it's just who he is. And that's why he continues time and time and time again. Like, remember last year when everybody was like freaking out about Joe O'Brien, and I'm just like, just relax, let it play out. Because you trust Mike Mickens. He's done this all the time. Like, I'm going to let you guys have your little swing at it, but I'm going to still be right here. Remember when Christian Gray was going through it, and LSU and Ohio State seemed to be kind of the hot teams, and he was just, we're fine. You guys have your swing, but I'm just going to keep here. I'm in it for the long haul. And then he's able to close. And this is going to be the first of many.
Can't say that strategy doesn't work. I mean, we talk a lot on this show about stacking classes and closing the gap. Well, you want a prime example of who's been doing that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's Mike Mickens. You mentioned it. You go from, I mean, really, if you just look at the last two classes, in 2025, you bring in Jadon Blair, Mark Zachary, Dallas Golden, amongst others. They already have commitments from Joey O'Brien, Kari Adams, Aiden Pouncey, guys like that. And then now you're starting out this class with Khalil Terry. The year before that, you bring in Leonard Moore. The year before that, you bring in Christian Gray, amongst others. So it's really impressive what he's doing. But, Bryan, let's talk a little class impact here. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, but Khalil Terry, he's the 6th overall commit in this class. And I want to echo something that you brought up. I really love the format of how this class is starting to shape out. Like you said, it's not too heavy focused on, all right, well, they just have 3 defensive linemen right now, or they have 3 linebackers right now and nobody else. They have a person at each level of the defense. They have Richie Flanagan on the D-line, Ellis McGaskin at linebacker, and now they have Khalil Terry in their secondary. But it's a good California recruit, man. We talk all the time about the different recruiting hotbeds that Notre Dame wants to be a part of. And Ellis McGaskin is from Louisiana, and now Khalil Terry is from California. So the areas that Notre Dame is making a top priority, they're getting kids from, and that's another piece of this class impact, getting Khalil Terry to commit for the 2027 class.
One of the things that makes this commitment important is he is a player that's got some positional flexibility. And you'll see it on his film. He'll play corner, he'll play nickel, he'll play safety. And in Notre Dame, they view him as sort of a nickel safety type of player. Guy that can play nickel, guy that can play safety. He's got some Thomas Harper to him as a tackler. He's got some coverage skills that are similar to kind of what you would see in a Jordan Clark and a Dallas, or not Dallas Golden. I meant to say Devontae Smith. But he's also has the size to play safety. It's a lot like Nick Reddish. And so you've got a kid that if there's another guy you really like at nickel, then Khalil Terry can be perfectly fine playing the safety position. If you really fill up at the safety position because you get some guys you really like, then Khalil Terry is a kid that you can then focus more on being part of the safety rotation, but a guy that's going to battle for your starting nickel job. And so I think when you talk about class impact, as the first DB in the class, I mean, that's his first impact, right? I mean, you're going to need another 4 to 5 man secondary class. You're going to just need that every year. Injuries happen. Not everybody develops the right way. Transfers. You've got to recruit 5, 6 DBs every year for a team that recruits, that plays a 5 DB defense. So having a guy like him, and we'll break down his game, just the all-around performance that he brings to the table, Trev, I think that nickel position works really good for him, because he can do a lot of different things. He's a good tackler. He comes downhill really well. He had 62 tackles this year. He had a sack this season. He's a good running back in high school. He's like a rotational back for them, but he had like 8.2 yards a carry on like 30-some carries. He had 20 passes defense this year for Tustin, 16 breakups and 4 interceptions. Incredibly smart player. And so when you look at starting your class with a kid like him, it really sets that floor of what your class can be. But he also is a bit of a movement piece, meaning you don't have to okay, well, this position's covered now that Khalil Terry's in the class. What you just got is a football player. Where exactly, field, boundary, nickel, that'll all get figured out later. This is just a football player that projects in the Mike Mickens secondary. So I think that's the big thing. And it doesn't hurt to get a kid from California. There's a lot of kids from California that Notre Dame is really trying to focus on, in this 2027 recruiting class. And, I think getting a kid like this really helps you to have somebody out west that can help you recruit. I don't know if Khalil Terry's the kind of kid that's going to be like a gangbusters, just like, he's not going to be like Drake Bowen. He's not going to be like some of the guys that we've seen in this class that are just like the really grinder recruiters, but it certainly helps. There's going to be kids he has relationships with. There's going to be kids that, are going to be interested in Notre Dame. They're going to want to pick his brain, kind of see what he thinks. What did you like? What didn't you like? All those different things. And I think those are all things that are going to be big factors in how he helps your class and how he helps this class develop. So getting a kid like him, it's a great way to start the class. Now it's about, okay, now get better and better and better and better. And there's some kids that are close that could add even more, continue to add even more to this class. So it's early yet. They've got to close, and we'll talk about this a little bit more on what's next. But they're in a position for another great class. But eventually you need to get that first, you got to ring that bell the first time. And then that allows you as a coach to say, okay, well, now I got him. So if you want to come, how bad do you want to come? You want to wait till signing day? All right, cool. I understand that. You got to do you got to do what you got to do, but so do I. But when there's nobody coming in the class, what leverage do you have as a recruiter to say, you might want to think about, like, if this is really where you want to be, like you say, you got some decisions that you have to think about. And so that's another part of it. But Trev, like you and I have talked about this for years, dude. You've heard me talk about this. One thing that's been very prominent in Marcus Freeman's tenure, and this is why I think him and Mike Mickens are so effective. They look for guys that are just good football players. They look for guys with character. Khalil checks all that. They look for good athletes. They like length. He's not tall, but he's pretty long. But they love smart football players. And if you look at all the different things that have been just clear, I mean, he'll take tall guys and short guys. He'll take medium height guys. He'll take all types of guys. But there's certain traits that they all have: high football IQ, character, toughness, versatility. A lot of his guys play both ways. You look at Khalil Terry and you're like, check, 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 check all the boxes. And you understand why Mike Mickens thought about him as highly as he did.
Yeah, positional flexibility is becoming a common trend, especially in players that they're bringing in on the defensive side of the ball. And can't say that it's not working out for him, especially with some of the immediate impacts that a lot of the younger DBs have had at Notre Dame. Specifically, you think about Dallas Golden and the type of athlete he was in high school and his positional flexibility on defense. He got more coming in, so it's definitely going to be exciting to see. But Bryan, I am
real quick though. I got to say this too: is how impressive was it for Notre Dame to be able to get a California kid who visited for the Navy game? By the way, you know what I mean? Because he was on campus this past weekend, so he got to see the snow, the cold, the rain, all of it, and he still said, "Yep, I want to be a part of that."
And I love that tactic, by the way, because that's literally Notre Dame showing, hey, you hear all the quote unquote horror stories about the weather here, and it's just so unbelievably cold. This is it, bro. Mm-hmm. Like this is when we're playing football. Will it get colder here? Yes, it will, but not when we're out in pads. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I appreciate. So yeah, it's a really smart recruiting tactic.
Yep.
I dig it.
Yep. You ready to watch a little film, Trev?
I always am, man. You know me.
Okay. All right, let's get this ready to rock and roll. You guys are going to see, first thing you're going to notice from this film with Khalil Terry is a kid who does a lot of different things. We talked about this. He's a young man that is going to, like, first play, you're going to see him playing deep middle. I think the second play, he's playing nickel. You're going to see him play all over. Really smooth athlete, Trev, but this is the kid that knows. He's so smart. His ability to read the defense and just kind of read the quarterback's eyes, to read routes, makes him really effective. I was incorrect. His second play, he's playing corner, and he's going to come on a fire here real quick. Yeah, come on a little corner fire. But he just plays all over. He makes a ton of plays, and he's a smart football player. Like, I think he does a great job here of selling this. He's playing corner. Like, oh, and then look at the timing. Doesn't give it away. Quarterback has no idea he's coming until it's too late. And then I think the third snap is when we see him playing the slot, and he just does a little bit of everything. Yep, here we go. So first three plays of his highlights, you see him playing free safety, boundary corner, and nickel. And you
can see his length too. He has very long arms.
Yes, like he's bent. They're already down to his knee. Look at that. I just love the confidence he has to not go for just the tackle here, but to see the ball. Think about this. He's got his eyes on the guy that's blocking him. Great block destruction there, by the way. He's got his eyes on the ball carrier, and he still is able to see the football and break that up. That is a heck of a football play, Trev. A heck of a football play. by this young man. So
Yeah.
I love that. You see the instincts, you see the toughness, you see a lot of those things right there, just on that particular clip.
You see a lot of his athleticism too. I mean, his
Oof.
speed doesn't pop off the charts, but it's his acceleration. The
Yeah.
second that he reads and recognizes the play, he goes, man.
Right. Yeah, like he's not a 4.3, low 4.4 guy, speed wise, I don't think, but he's quick. I love this, his ability to just plant and get downhill quickly. He's very efficient with his footwork, he's efficient with his body movement, and then gets downhill and he can lay a hit on you. Like, yeah, he does it all. I mean, look, it's great to have a guy that's, a 4.4. It's wonderful. Xavier Watts wasn't a 4.4.
I was just about to say, there's outside of the hitting power, and it's not like Xavier Watts wasn't he wasn't laying the boom like a Don Schuler was, but he was a sure tackler. But I see from a read and reacting standpoint, play recognition standpoint, I see a lot of Xavier Watts here.
Here is Khalil at running back. By the way, he had 31 carries this year. I think it was like 255 yards, 8.2 per carry, 4 touchdowns. So, he's not a primary running back, but they used him that way this season a little bit, and you'll see a few carries on his highlights. Here he is playing deep safety. This is where he can play nickel, but in high school, like this is where he really impresses me, is just because this is where you see his football IQ a lot. Like he is all over this quarterback's eyes. Like that kid is trying to look him off. He has no chance at doing it, and he's able to make the interception. Like he's a really smart football player. This Ashton Genty running back stance drives me nuts. It really does. But you see more and more kids doing it. But look at the foot quickness here, getting downhill as a running back. Watch this cut right there, vertical cut, cuts back. Really smooth athlete, Trev.
Yeah.
Like not super explosive, but really smooth, really fluid, covers a lot of ground. This is a smart football play because, look, you can see he's thinking, okay, can I break this up? And he's like, nope, I can't get there in time, so I'm going to go lay a hit on him. Like, you see how many times you see DBs that are like they get caught right there in high school, especially as junior high school, thinking, oh, I think I can make a play on the ball. And then they realize too late that they can't. And then the guy ends up, catching the ball, but not here. He's like, okay, right now I'm not getting to the ball. So let me put my shoulder right into this guy's chest and knock the ball out. It's a really good football play. He's a tough kid. He's not a real big guy. He's a very physical kid. But just you see it, toughness, instincts, smooth athleticism. It's a good football player. And that's, it's what Mike Mickens sees in him.
Yeah,
and
he's an extremely fluid athlete. I mean, I think that he has great body control. I think he high points the ball well for a DB. Goes up with both hands. It's a good football player. Yeah. Smart football player.
Talking about smooth, Trev, like look at this run right here. Watch this. Just a really easy back cut. And then look at that move at the end. So this is him at running back, by the way, for those watching at home. Watch this. Bam. Whoop. Like real smooth, real fluid, great balance. And one thing that we've seen from some younger DBs at Notre Dame is they really lack that play strength early on. That is not an issue for Khalil Terry. He has plenty of play strength, even early on. Like Mark Zachary has that. Like Mark's going to have to get a lot stronger as he gets older. He's a tough kid, but he's going to have to get a lot stronger. Khalil's going to show up as a kid that's got some pretty good natural strength to him. And he's got a little bit of a thicker body. So he's 5'11", $185. He's not a giant kid, but he just has a lot of that real strong, strong lower body, delivers a lot of punishment. And then just nice job. Look at that. Watch. He can't play. This is a perfect throw by the quarterback. Like you literally can't do a better job than this. I don't know I've ever seen a play like this. Watch him reach around the back of this kid and knock the ball out. I've never seen a highlight like that, Trev. Like he knows he's beat. This guy just beats him up the seam right there. He knows he's beat. So he's just playing his hands. Seriously, I honestly don't know if I've ever seen a guy. He goes behind this kid and knocks the ball out. I really don't know that I've ever seen that before.
No, it's definitely one of the more impressive plays of his highlight film. I just wish there was a better camera angle of it.
Yes. Look at this. It's a nice play, nice read. He's all over the quarterback's eyes. Terrible ball, but he's all over that.
The quarterback took a shot
through
that ball. Man.
Yeah. Was that from Taven Epps? No, it was not. So obviously Taven Epps is a teammate of his who visited Notre Dame recently too, who recently decommitted from Texas, and Notre Dame is still recruiting him. There was a question about that in the chat.
Strong kid.
Yes. Yes, Khalil's. That's the thing I like about him, Trev. No, he's not big, but he's strong and physical. Him and Nick Reddish have very similar body types.
Yeah.
Very similar body types. Look how much range he covers. Look where he is. He's inside the hash at the snap. Quarterback just looks play side, and he just reads the quarterback perfectly. Yeah, his D-line, they get some shots on dudes.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely get some shots on dudes. But just really good instincts, good feel, just picks that sucker off and just going to take it back.
To the house?
Mm-hmm. A little bit of a house call there.
All right.
Yep. Good downhill player in the run game too, Trev. That's another thing I like about him in the nickel. He's going to be – I mean, you saw it on a couple clips. You'll see it in a little bit more in game film. He's pretty good when you consider it for a junior with block destruction, understanding angles. Like, hey, I know I need to go outside here. I need to know I need to inside here. Here's a cornerback. I think that is why I really like him at nickel as well. Like, depending on what I'm talking about is whether or not I like him more at nickel or more at safety. But that's one of the traits that I really like. He's going to be a force against perimeter run, a force against perimeter pass. You know, he's going to be a guy that I mean, like if he can, keep working and stuff at Notre Dame, he's the kind of kid that you're just going to love playing against Navy.
I was just about to say he's a nickel type of corner, like that hybrid nickel safety that you wouldn't necessarily have to not play. Like Jordan Clark didn't play a snap against Army or Navy last year. Very few, but he's a player.
Like a few nickel situations. Yeah, exactly. It's like,
he's a player that you don't have to take off the field.
No, like Devontae Smith. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, Devontae Smith can do so many different things in the defense, and this is a kid that can do that. So, it's a good football player, real good football player. He knows when to take. He knows. As you saw in a previous clip, he knows when to drill a guy. He knows when to go for a form tackle. He knows when to go low. He's a really sound football player. He's been very well coached. You can tell that. Like, kudos to his staff or whoever works with him, his family, whoever. This is him at running back. Like, so when I was first watching this, a couple of the running back clips that they didn't mark him, I'm like, why is he showing that highlight? I'm like, I don't even know what he did well. Oh, wait, he's got the ball. Like, so
showing a defensive clip where your defense gets gashed for 60 yards.
Like, what is he showing there? I can't even find him on the highlight. Oh, wait, he's got the ball. But again, this is another example, Trev, of the strength and then just the smooth athleticism that you see here. Just look at him run through that arm tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he has some older brothers that have played college football as well. So it comes from a football family, which shouldn't shock you when you watch this film. This is a nice ball by the quarterback right here, by the way. That's about as good of a two-hole throw as you're going to make at the high school level. And, Khalil comes over and he's able to hit the guy, but that's a heck of a throw right there. But good, strong tackle. And guy makes the catch on him, obviously. Need a little bit more, a little bit better read route there by the second level players there to help him out a little bit. Obviously he's from the LA area, so there's good football there. And I like kids that it's not a requirement. I mean, there's been plenty of kids that played against small competition that were stars. But I do like the fact when you have a kid that's been challenged at the high school level.
Yeah.
He's playing against other Division I football players. I like that hit.
Comfortable playing at multiple different levels on the defense, comfortable playing deep middle. He's comfortable coming down into the box, slot, boundary. A lot of versatility.
I think that's Taven Epps there. I got to go back and look at his film that's got the hit on the quarterback. Who was committed to Texas, but now is decommitted. So, yeah, there's a lot to like about this kid, Trev. I think the reason he's not ranked higher, and it's understandable, it's a really smooth run, is he's not the biggest guy, and he's not a burner. So when you have that, you're not going to be ranked as high as a prospect. He grades out as a top 150 caliber prospect for me as well. And it's those grades, size and speed, that ding him compared to other safeties. But he grades out extremely high in, intangibles, football playmaking ability, instincts. He grades out pretty high from an athleticism standpoint, because athleticism and speed aren't always the same thing. Xavier Watts is a very good athlete, He's just not fast. Will Fuller was had elite speed. He wasn't necessarily an elite athlete. You know, when you look at some of the other intangible, the other speed traits, he didn't have like a huge vertical jump. He didn't have a great shuttle time. He was just really fast.
Yeah.
And what I like about Khalil is he grades out high in a lot of the athletic traits, but he's not a guy that is, you know, going to be a burner. And that's going to impact his ranking. Doesn't impact him for being a really good football player, but it is something that's going to have an impact when you look at his, from just a ranking standpoint, a little bit of the ceiling, those type of things. So, but man, overall, Trev, I mean, this is a really good pickup. It's a really good pickup.
Yeah, definitely a really good pickup. It's a strong one to start out the 2027 secondary class. So, Bryan, let's wrap this all up and talk about what's next. Obviously, the 2027 class is a little ways down the road, a lot of closing that still has to be done. You're not at the finish line yet. So what's next for the Khalil Terry commitment? What comes next?
Well, there's a couple spot things to it. Let's kind of talk secondary in general. Number one, he gives you a nickel and a safety. I could see Notre Dame still taking 2 safeties in the class with his ability to play nickel, plus the fact that the staff plays 4 safeties in every game. There's only one pure safety in the 2026 class. That's Joey O'Brien. Nick Reddish just kind of a nickel safety. Aiden Pouncey could end up playing safety. Maybe Chaz Smith can end up playing safety. But their guys are going to get a shot at corner. So not a lot of pure safeties, like guys that you know for a fact, day one, they're playing back into the defense, right? I mean, Nick Reddish may do that, but he also may start off at nickel. And so I think first thing you're going to do is see this staff continue to try to focus on landing safeties. The one kid that I always needs to be part of the conversation when we're talking about safeties is Tavares Harrington, who's from Mount Carmel in Chicago. 6'3", long, rangy kid. Plays corner right now in high school and might even get a shot to play corner early on in college. But he's 6'3", 180. ESPN has him as a top 100 player. I grade him as a top 100 to 150 caliber player. I really like Tavares. He's a little bit raw in some areas, but has a very high ceiling. And he's a guy that I know the Notre Dame staff likes a lot. He likes Notre Dame a lot, and I don't see his commitment dragging on into the spring. I think he'll probably make a decision. He'll be one of the kids that makes a little bit of an earlier decision, and I like where Notre Dame is at with him. I like the fact that he'd be a perfectly perfect complement to Khalil Terry, body type-wise, 5'11", 185, 6'3", 180. Tavares is also one of those kids that has a lot of positional flexibility, could play corner, could play either corner spot, could play both safety spots. So he's a guy that I like a lot. Another player that Notre Dame has just kind of recently become a major player, and they've been recruiting him for a while. But Gavin Williams visited for the USC game. He's another California kid. Actually, he's played against. I'm pretty sure they played against Khalil Terry. But he's a kid that Notre Dame liked, but I don't know that like they were in that top group necessarily for Gavin. I mean, he liked Notre Dame enough to visit, but they were sort of like, if he had a top 10, I'd say they were probably like middle to bottom of the top 10, probably like middle-ish, like 4 to 6-ish, right? After the visit that he had for the A&M game or the USC game, he shot way up. So I think Notre Dame put themselves firmly in his top group of schools as long as they can continue to kind of push. He's a really, really good football player. Honor Johnson is another California player from the San Diego area that Notre Dame is on. I think he's probably going to stay out west, but I know that they're at least recruiting him. So he's a guy that the staff is certainly talking to. Marquise Bryant is a player from North Carolina that visited recently. He's another nickel safety type of guy that the staff is on. I'm very curious how his recruitment is going to go now that Khalil Terry's in a class. That is one kid who I think potentially could be impacted by this. That's just my opinion. That's not something I've been told. That's just my opinion, something I'm going to be looking for. There's a couple other players that they're on that you view. I guess part of it is, do you view Garyon Hobbs as a safety or a linebacker? If you view him as a safety, then he's a guy to consider here. If you look at him as a linebacker, which I think Notre Dame kind of looks at him more as like a nickel linebacker, then that's not really applicable here. So those are some safeties to talk about. And then, of course, Notre Dame still hasn't landed anybody at corner. And there's a long list of names to know. Obviously, the first name you got to know is Xavier Hassan, who was on campus this past weekend as well. He is an absolute must-get prospect for Mike Mickens. He's doing a phenomenal job with that recruitment. I think Notre Dame is going to be very hard to beat for Xavier Hassan as long as they continue to do what they're doing. He's another guy that can play both corner spots. He can play nickel. He can play safety. He's a lot like Dallas Golden in that he projects in so many different spots. Josh Dobson's a player that Notre Dame is still recruiting and recruiting hard. That's going to be a tough one. He's like a 5-star kid. He's got everybody in the country's kind of after him. That might be a little bit of a tougher pull, but look, he visited this season and he's talked to the staff. Hayden Williams is one. Ace Alston from Ohio is a kid that Notre Dame likes a lot. Jalen Hill's another California kid that from St. John Bosco that Notre Dame is very high on. Josiah Molden, Larry Moon. Duve Williams is a kid that a lot of people thought was leaning towards USC for a long time, still is, but Notre Dame gave him a lot to think about when he visited for you at the USC game as well. So it's a big class. It's a very big group of players. I'm very curious to see kind of how they will it down. Who is in that top group that you take no matter what? Who are those guys that maybe you're slow playing a little bit until you find out how the other guys are going to do? So, but yeah, it's a very strong group, and now it's just about closing. You close on Xavier Hassan, close on Tavares, Harrington, try to close on Gavin Williams, guys like that, Ace Alston, and get this DB class rolling again, like Mike Mickens seems to do every year.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for part one of today's show. We recapped the commitment to 2027 safety, 4-star recruit Khalil Terry out of Tustin, California. He is the 6th member of the 2027 Notre Dame recruiting class. But we are getting ready to talk keys to victory for Notre Dame's matchup against Pittsburgh this Saturday afternoon. But before we get there, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, whatever streaming platform you listen to us on. We'd greatly appreciate a 5-star review. But as always, the best way to support what we do here, subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Bryan, in part 2 of today's show here in the Irish Breakdown podcast brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, we're talking Notre Dame Pitt. We're breaking down keys to victory, and what we've done is we've separated this into 3 different segments. We're talking team keys to victory, we're talking offensive keys to victory, and then we're going to talk some defensive keys to victory. And this is going to be a huge matchup. Again, this Saturday afternoon, 12 p.m. kickoff. You can watch it on ABC if you're not going to the game. You can also listen to it on the Notre Dame radio network if you're not going to watch it on TV either. But Notre Dame right now is currently favored by 11.5 points by our friends over at FanDuel. Over-under is still set at 55.5.
Did you say 11.5 points?
Yes, sir.
That's up a little bit from when we first started. Wasn't it like 10.5 when we first started?
It was 10.5. Okay. It was 10.5, and then about 15 minutes ago, it was 11 or 12.5, and now it's back down to 11.5. So a little bit of a sporadic line, but either way, they have Notre Dame winning by double digits, staying consistent with what they've done really on their 7-game win streak so far.
The 55.5 is a little interesting for an over-under. I hope that they're correct on that. In that I hope that, well, actually, no, I kind of don't. I want Notre Dame 55 by themselves. But I think what it says is that they don't think this Pitt offense can score on the Notre Dame defense like some people think that they may, and that's possible. But it's going to be a battle. This is a big game, Trev. As we talked about all week, this is sort of your chance as a team. This is your last really big statement opportunity other than just we blew out some teams that stink. This is your chance to say, hey, look, we're going to go out there and we're going to dominate. We're going to kick your butts for 60 minutes and we're going to put a top 25 win on our resume. Boom. And then after that, here's what you're hoping for if you're a Notre Dame fan. You want Notre Dame to absolutely annihilate Pitt this weekend. And then you want Pitt to bounce back with ferocity and win their next 2 games because against Georgia Tech and Miami, because then that ensures that Pitt's going to finish the year ranked in the top 25. So it's a big one for Notre Dame, Trev. And that's why we're kind of doing the 3 keys instead of just doing offense and defense, because I do think in a game like this, on the road, Pitt announced today that the game is sold out. Pitt doesn't sell out many games. And so there's going to be a lot of Notre Dame fans there, but then also this is a big game for Pitt also. I think that they're finally realizing, hey, we're actually decent at football this year. And, this is your chance to go out there and make that big statement, have that big statement win. But it's not going to be easy. Pitt's going to make you earn it. And I'm looking forward to talking about these keys to earning that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is a major game for both programs, despite some people's attempts to try to downplay what this means. I mean, you brought this up earlier in the week. When's the last time Notre Dame and Pitt played in a ranked matchup? You know what I mean?
It's been a while, yeah. I was actually thinking about that earlier. I'm gonna try to look that up here while we're talking. It's been a minute.
It has.
So yeah, because they obviously weren't in 2023. 2018, I think Pitt had a losing record in 2018 as well. I'm pretty sure that they were 3-3 going into that game. So that obviously wasn't it. And then they didn't play in 17. They didn't play in 15, or they didn't play in 16. 15, I don't think they were ranked in 2015. But I can check that. Yeah, they were not ranked in 2015 either. 2013, yeah, Pitt was 6-2 in that game, but not ranked. And then 2013 they played. Was Pitt ranked in that game? That's a game Pitt obviously won. Pitt won that game. Pitt was they were 4-4 going into that game. It's been a while, Trev, since this has been a matchup of ranked teams. And then 2012, obviously they weren't ranked in 2012 either. They were 4-4. And Pitt is that team that in the past, like everybody says the last few years, like, oh man, Pitt gives Notre Dame a tough game every time they play. And I'm like, well, it's actually been a while since that has been true for Notre Dame. But for a long time, that was absolutely true. Pitt was ranked in 2009. Notre Dame wasn't. Pitt was not ranked in 2008. Notre Dame wasn't ranked either. Oh, you know what it was? Was Notre Dame ranked? No, because then Notre Dame wasn't ranked. Yeah. I thought 2005 might have been it, Trev, because Pitt was ranked at the beginning of the 2005 season. But alas, Notre Dame was not ranked. So, yeah, I'm not going to go past 2003. I'm like, okay, I'm just chalking it up to that Notre Dame just wasn't ranked. You know what I mean? So Pitt was ranked in 2003. Notre Dame wasn't. So, yeah, it's been quite a while since both teams were ranked.
It goes to tell you how big of a matchup this is. But again, that's why we broke this down into 3 different keys, Bryan. And the first one, we're going to start with the team because these will filter into both the offense and the defense. Mm-hmm. We're going to hold off on those specifically until down the road here.
Yeah, they're more big picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first one is to be the more physical team because if there's one thing that we do know about a Pitt coach team, they will be physical. They will be aggressive. Notre Dame has to be the more physical team on Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you've got to bring it. You've got to be more physical in the trenches. You've got to be more physical on the outside. You know, that could be the difference between, you're blocking a DB. It's the difference between Jeremiah Love getting tackled for an 8-yard gain and Jeremiah Love maybe making a house call. You've got to be physical going up for contested catches. You've got to be physical finishing off runs. You've got to be physical making tackles. You got to be physical in coverage, not letting them get free releases. You're in the secondary going up for contested catches, playing on special teams. You've got to come out and right away let Pitt know, yes, you guys may be tougher than most teams you play. You are not tougher than us. And that's got to be established right away. And then kind of part of that too, Trevor, is transition into the next key, which is being the more aggressive football team. I think part of physicality is it's not just that, hey, we want to be physical. But do you have game plans on both sides of the ball? Did you prepare all week in a way that says, hey, we're going to go out here and we're going to take the fight to you? And you could kind of make those one point, but I kind of like to have them separate because I think one is more of a player's thing and the other one is more of a coaches demanding that out of their players, not with words, but with their game plans. I think that's number 2 for me.
Yeah, the coaching aspect of that makes that more like the most interesting aspect of being the more aggressive team. And it starts with the top down. We can sit here and talk about, look, it's a ranked matchup. You just kind of have to come away with a win. Well, with as tight as these playoff rankings have been, it's kind of not good enough to just kind of win. Notre Dame has to establish a certain level of dominance. And we said that in their final stretch in the month of November, Notre Dame has to look like a team that is ready to compete and make it back to the college football playoff semifinals, potentially the national championship. This is your last test for that. Nobody's going to watch you play Syracuse. Nobody's going to watch you play Navy or Stanford or Boston College and say, yep, That team is ready to compete in the playoffs. This is the game that people will say, okay, they just decimated a ranked Pitt team ranked inside of the top 25, could potentially play for the ACC championship. That's a good win. And Marcus Freeman is going to have to kind of not have some of the same mindset that we did of like, you have to win this one, and then you kind of get your feet under you. You have to go into this one super aggressive on offense and defense, and it's different for both sides. So that one's going to be really, really interesting. You also have to be the smarter team in this one, Bryan. That is going to be huge, and this you can kind of tackle in two different areas, but they have to be the smarter team.
The first part of being smart, Trev, just talks about how you play the game, right? Just discipline, knowing your assignments, right? Like offensive line wise, know who you're supposed to block. Don't get caught up in all the twists and movement, things like that. Look, Pitt's a team that naturally already likes to twist and stunt. They just watch Navy give Notre Dame major problems with twists and stunts. They're going to twist and stunt. You got to play smart. CJ Carr, you got to be smart. You got to make good reads. You got to not force the ball. You got to, when there's an open guy, you got to take that open shot. One of the things that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have a pass game breakdown video coming out here where I break down a bunch of different plays in the pass game, a lot of good ones. But one of the ones from CJ that, like, oh man, he threw a little comeback to Malachi. He anticipated that they were going to do this one coverage, and they're not doing that. He has Jordan Faison wide open for a post route touchdown, and not one of those. He was open because the safety saw the quarterback going somewhere else. It was a blown coverage. Man, he didn't read it out. That didn't hurt you against Navy. But you can't have those missed opportunities against Pitt. The stutter and go. That you get a defensive PI, but you got to throw that ball on time, be smarter with it, and then let Malachi run underneath it and get 7 instead of, a 15. Get 60 and 6 points instead of 15 and a first down. You know what I mean? So just Jeremiah Love, make good reads. Receivers, do your job. Proper run fits on defense, right? Good timing and blitzes, no blown coverage. There's all these different things about playing smart. And then the other part is Pitt's going to try to get in your head. They're going to talk trash. They're going to probably have late hits. That's how they were at Michigan State under him. That's kind of how they have been at Pitt under him. Not, I'm saying dirty as in ooh, what a bunch of bad kids, but more dirty and they're going to play to the whistle and slightly beyond the whistle. And then they're going to get up and run their mouths about it and get in your ear. Don't let them get you out of your game. Don't let them trash talk you and get you into these silly penalties like you allowed Boston College to do to you. You got to play smart because it's an ACC crew. The ACC commissioner's publicly advocating for one of his teams to be in the playoff over Notre Dame. It's going to be you against the team in blue and yellow, and it's going to be you also against the team in black and white. That called the officials. Don't give them reasons to do things to you in that regard. So they're going to have to play smart execution-wise and then just being disciplined in how they go about their business. If the refs screw you out of a couple calls, don't let it bother you. Let Marcus Freeman fight that fight. You go punish the other team for it. And that's going to be a big part of this game as well. And it's part of that being the smarter team.
That was the one thing I wanted to focus on. Yes, I agree. Smarter team from an execution standpoint. You got to do all these different things. This is the part of football that not a lot of people like to talk about, but it's very, very real. You have to be the smart. Look, I respect Pitt. They're a good opponent. I've been saying all week, you've been saying all week that this is Notre Dame's best remaining opponent in their schedule. We said it back before they entered the stretch, starting with Boston College, that Pitt was probably the best team that they were going to face. Respect to Navy, the most talented team for sure. Pitt does not have the talent to beat Notre Dame. I don't think so. Across the board, I don't. But the way that they beat you, especially with everything that you mentioned, with all of the ACC factors coming into this game, you can't let what happened at Boston College carry over into what's happening on the road against Pitt. That was a very undisciplined team on the road against Boston College. There were stuff happening after the whistle. You're not going to get calls. Just accept it. You're not. You're going to get some garbage called against you. How do I know that? Because I've watched garbage get called against this football team every single time an ACC officiating crew has been on the same field as the blue and gold or white and gold. You're not going to get calls. So accept that now. So it's not some crazy reality when you're playing on Saturday at noon, and just be the level-headed team. Because if you are and you just go out and handle business, this Pitt team can't beat you. But it's when you start getting in your own way. Notre Dame can't hurt Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman loves to say that. That is so big in this game. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm glad you brought that up, man, because that is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. One of the next keys to victory for this team is one that I really wanted to talk about. It's the middle eight in this game. And this is a huge, huge piece. It's a big piece of the success for both teams, really. Look at what Notre Dame has done. I said the stat yesterday. Since Arkansas, they've outscored their opponents 115-14 in the second half alone. That's insane. Here's the flip side of that coin. Pitt, in their 5-game win streak, in their last 3 games, they've outscored their opponents 77-14 from the second and third quarter. Every team in the last 3 games, including the one against Stanford, Pitt, like, it was a ball game. It wasn't like Pitt was up 21-10 or 21-7 or 14-0. It was 10-7. I think they were losing to Syracuse or NC State, I think. The one of those two they were losing to. And then just the second and third quarter blew it wide open. The winner of that in all 3 phases, I know we're talking team keys to victory here, but the winner of those in all 3 phases, Marcus Freeman highlighted Pitt's special teams this past week. All 3 phases are going to have to be dialed in, because we talk fast starts on offense and defense, yes, but maintaining a fast start, staying in rhythm on both sides of the ball, staying aggressive on defense, staying in rhythm on offense, it's going to be monumental in this game, because Pitt is a very good middle 8 team specifically. That's going to be huge this weekend, Bryan.
What's interesting, Trevor, is that Notre Dame was a dominant team in this area last year. I mean, just all season, Notre Dame just whooped people in the middle 8. For a while there this year, early in the season, that was not the case. And even kind of recently, you look at the USC game and you didn't lose the middle 8. You won the middle 8, but you didn't win it by a lot. You won it 20-14. That ended up being an important aspect in a game that you won by 10. But like the BC is another example. When I talk middle 8, I'm actually just talking second and third quarters. It's a little bit different in the middle 8, but like BC, you second and third quarter, you outscored them 18-10, but like if you look at the middle 8, you lost because you couldn't get them off the field. So, and then you look at the Navy game and it was complete opposite, Trevor. They get that Notre Dame, outscored them, I think, what did I say, was like 21-3, something like that in the middle 8. So this isn't an area where Notre Dame has been super consistent, and it's definitely not an area they've been great at on the road. And that's been a bit, well, in 2 of their 3 road games, they weren't good at that. And against Arkansas, they kind of dominated in every area imaginable known to man in that game. You know what I mean? But in the other 2, not so much. So this is something where we're going to learn a little bit about this football team in regard to its ability to play on the road. That's why I say every team is different. Last year's team just seemed to be better on the road. Last year's team, just for whatever reason, when they got away from home, they were just a better football team. This year, they haven't been that way. Now, their best game of the year arguably was away from home, but 2 of their worst games were also away from home when you look at Miami and BC. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing kind of how this is going to play out. Very much.
I am as well, man. I am as well. But for all the things that we talked about, be the more physical team, the more aggressive team, the smarter team, you have to win the middle 8. A really good way to do that is your stars got to be stars, your dudes got to be dudes, and they have to be in this game, Bryan. Have to.
I think it's hard to win top 25 matchups against good football teams. And in Notre Dame's case, where this isn't like Texas versus Georgia, where talent-wise, there's not much of a gap between Texas and Georgia. You could argue just pure athleticism that Texas has more talent than Georgia. I think Georgia's more experienced. They have more veteran talent, which, things like that. But like if you're gonna look at Georgia's roster today and Texas's roster today and say 5 years from now, which team has more NFL talent, it would not shock me if Texas's current roster ends up producing more NFL players. not saying it definitely will. I'm saying it's at least a conversation where we can have who actually has the just God-given more talent. Take away experience, take away, whatever, just God-given talent. You could make the case that Texas is more talented than Georgia. That's not the case in this game. There's a significant talent disadvantage, talent gap between the two teams, but not so much that you're just going to roll the ball out and win no matter what, like there was with BC and Navy, where unless you just turn the ball over a bunch of times, you're going to win that game. This is a team that can test you, and so but also the other part of it, Trevor, it's not just winning. Winning is all that matters in this game, but if you really want to make the statement that we're talking about to get you a home playoff game, you've got to absolutely annihilate Pittsburgh, and for that to happen, also even more so, you need Jeremiah Love and or Jadarian Price to be big time in this game. You need CJ Carr to be what we think he is. Malachi Fields, Eli Raridan, Jordan Faison, Boubacar Traore, Drake Bowen, Leonard Moore, Christian Gray. I mean, we'll talk about a lot of these other guys, but the guys that you consider your dudes, your captains, your impact players, those guys have to come out and say, all right, this is when I shine. This is when I make a name for myself. Fair or not, the last time CJ Carr went out against a ranked opponent, he didn't play very well. This is his chance to kind of put that in the rearview mirror. And that's true in a lot of different positions. So I absolutely believe that this is the game where your dudes have got to absolutely step up and be dudes in this game, Trev.
Here's the thing that I love about the Notre Dame Pitt rivalry, and why I love this being one of the final team key to victory that we're talking about. This rivalry specifically is the prime example of what happens when your dudes are dudes and when they're not dudes. Let's go back to 2015. Let's take a little road trip back about a decade. Notre Dame won 42-30. What happened in that game? Will Fuller had 7 catches for $152 and 3 touchdowns. Their dudes were dudes. Josh Adams had 147 yards, 20 carries.
In a game where the starting running back got hurt.
Yep.
And Josh had to come off the bench because CJ Process got hurt.
Yep.
And said, we're good. I'm a dude also.
Deshaun Kaiser, 19-26 for 262 yards, 5 touchdowns, no turnovers, averaged 10.1 yards per attempt. In 2023, Marcus Freeman's first time against Pitt. You look at what they did. They won 58-7. Sam Hartman kind of had a rough game. He had 2 interceptions, but still won 18-25. But who are your dudes? Audric Estime was a dude. 19 carries, 114 yards, averaged 6 yards a carry for 3 touchdowns. Jadarian Price would spell him a little bit, 6 carries for 35 yards and a touchdown.
Chris Tyree.
Yep.
With a long punt return for a touchdown.
Yep. But then what happened in 2018? A year where Notre Dame went undefeated. Your dudes weren't dudes. But one of your dudes, Ian Book, was a dude when he had to be at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. But up until that point, why did it wait that long? It's because Dexter Williams had 13 carries for 31 yards, averaged 2.4 yards a carry. Your second leading rusher was Ian Book. Not even. He was tied with Dexter Williams for 31 yards. Miles Boykins had 84 yards and a touchdown, helped by that 35-yarder at the end of the game. But I say all that to say this rivalry encompasses what it's like when your dudes are dudes versus when they're not. To Brian's point, this isn't a question of like if they can win if Jeremiah Love doesn't go for 150 yards on the ground. Yes, they can win if he doesn't go for 150 yards on the ground. But it's going to look a lot closer to Boston College, 25-10, than it will what it looked like against Arkansas or what it looked like against NC State. So that's going to be huge. Your guys absolutely have to be stars in this one.
Yeah, and it's both sides of the ball. Jalen Smith was very good in that 2015 game. Kavari Russell was very good. Romeo Okwara had I think 2 sacks in that game as well in that 2015 game. And so it's your defense, your offense was struggling in the 2018 game. So what happens? Your defense steps up and has a big day. Khalid Kareem has a big sack in that game. Tavon Coney has 8 tackles. Julian Okwara had 7 pressures in that game. That's not even PFF pressures. That's official pressures, which are always lower. Drew Tranquil had a big game against Pitt in 2018. So, like, your defensive stars stepped up and made plays in a game when your other stars did not. And that was also a game where Troy Pride was hurt. He didn't play that game. And so Tariq Bracy had to step up in that game and had a big game. to win games like this, your dudes have to be dudes, man. It really is that simple, and it just like and that's what defined last year's team. And it doesn't have to be every single one. Like if CJ Card, Jeremiah Love, Malachi Fields, Eli Raridan, Anthony Knapp, Drake Bowen, Josh Burnham, Kingston, Bubakar, Jared Dawson, Leonard Moore, Adon Schuler, Tay Johnson, and Christian Gray all don't play great, Notre Dame's going to lose. No, that's not. But it's like you need a chunk of those guys to play good football and another chunk of those guys to play great football. And if Pitt's, because you guys know what Pitt's number one game plan is going to be. Number 4, number 24 are not going to beat us running the football. All right, cool. So can 0 beat you? Can 9 beat you? Can 6 beat you? Can 2 beat you? Can 13 beat you? So we're going to find out. But Pitt is going to be smart, and they're going to say, we're going to make CJ Carr beat us. We're not going to let Jeremiah Love beat us. And so, okay, let's see if they're able to do that. Let's see what Bubakar Traore looks like, after not playing last week. Let's see if Jared Dawson can go earn his NIL money coming over in the portal. You know what I mean? Like, let's see if Adon Schuler can go, be that captain type of player that can bounce back from a not great performance against Navy with a big time performance against Pitt. Like, that's what we saw last year. I was like, whether it was Jeremiah Love, whether it was Riley Leonard, whether it was Xavier Watts, whether it was Leonard Moore, whether it was whoever. I mean, just every game there was 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that would just step up and just be dudes. Like think of the Florida State game. Jeremiah Love wasn't feeling it. FSU was all over him. So what happens? Jadarian Price comes in, rips off a 65-yard touchdown run, breaks that thing open. So that's think about the Penn State game. Things aren't going great. Jaden Greathouse steps up and is like, I got you. I got this. You guys want to shut down Jeremiah and Jadarian? Cool. Leave me one-on-one? Bet. Let's see how this goes for you. Think of the Georgia game. Riley Leonard was like, all right, I got this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Jack Kaiser was like, I got this. So that's just what great teams do. And that's what Notre Dame needs to do if they're going to win this football game. If Notre Dame's dudes play like dudes, Pitt doesn't stand a chance. They can keep it close for a while, but they don't stand a chance to win a game. If Notre Dame's dudes don't play like dudes and Pitt's do, now they got a shot to win this game. Pitt does.
Yeah, I agree completely. Right now, our friends over at FanDuel think that Jeremiah Love is certainly going to be a dude. His over-under is set at 102.5.
That is wild to me. Like, Pitt has the number 1 rush defense in college football.
Yeah.
Like, that is, oh boy, that's a lot of confidence in Jeremiah. It's a lot of confidence. Has Pitt given up? Did Hollywood go for over 100 in that game?
I don't think so.
Because I know he had the 65-yard touchdown run. But did he he had 6 carries for 86 yards. I'm very curious if has Pitt allowed a 100-yard rusher so far this year? I'm going to look that up here real quick, Trev. I mean, there's teams that they played that didn't even have 100 yards rushing. So,
nope.
Let me see here. Well, and I know Stanford didn't. They had -10 as a team. I'm pretty sure they weren't, minus $110 on somebody else. So Duquesne's leading rusher had 38 yards. Central Michigan's leading rusher had 18 yards. I think Jeremiah Love's going to beat that. Let's see. West Virginia's leading rusher. Okay, Ty Edwards, their running back, went for $141, 3 touchdowns on 25 carries. Okay, so that's one team. Louisville's leading rusher had 47. Duke Watson and Isaac Brown combined for 67 yards on 28 carries combined. Boston College leading rusher had 31. Florida State's leading rusher had 71. Let's see. I don't know why I'm even looking at Syracuse. I know they didn't. I watched that game. And then Hollywood Smothers went for 86, and 65 of that came on 1 carry. And Stanford went for -10 as a team. So, yeah, they've had 1 running back go for a hundo this year, and that was West Virginia. Game they lost.
Yep, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that is going to do it for part 2 of today's show. Don't go anywhere. We're getting ready to talk keys to victory for Notre Dame's offense. But before we get there, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the CFB Nation channel. Bill Bender and Bill Trocchi are going live tomorrow morning to preview this weekend's games. And then tomorrow night, Vince and I are going live for this week's edition of the Spread Option. So you're not going to want to miss either of those shows. Whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, we'd greatly appreciate a 5-star review. As always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Bryan, in part 3 of today's show here in the Irish Breakdown podcast brought to you by FanDuel, we are talking Notre Dame's offense. We just broke down keys to victory for the team as a whole. Now we're going to get a little bit more into the weeds and talk this offense specifically.
This is a big week for the Notre Dame offense, Trev. Honestly, this is going to sound a bit hyperbolic, but if they don't play well this week, and I don't mean they got to go out and score 50 on Pitt, if they don't play well, just good football, line's got to be solid, CJ's got to play well, receivers, all that. I'm going to be a little bit nervous about where this offense is going into the postseason. Because honestly, I don't care what they do the next 2 games offensively. I don't. They could go score 60 each of the next 2 games and be nice and fun to watch, but it's not going to be okay, the offense is right. Syracuse's defense is a hot mess. Their team is a hot mess. Stanford's defense is not very good. And Notre Dame has dominated in recent years. This is the game where the offense is playing a defense that's going to be very aggressive, very multiple. They're going to throw a lot of different looks at you. They're going to bring pressures from all over. They're going to bring corner fire, safety blitzes, linebacker blitzes, twists, stunts, run stunts. They're going to show all, they're going to show all blitz and drop 8. They're going to blitz from depth. They're going to do things to try to confuse you up front, and they're going to try to do things to confuse the quarterback. They're going to try to create negatives. They love generating tackles for loss. That's why they're top 10 in the country almost every year in tackles for loss and sacks. They're going to try to create a heck of a lot of pressure on you and force you into a bunch of negatives. Negatives can be minus yard care, minus rushes. It could be incompletions. It could be turnovers. They're going to, sacks. They're going to try to create a lot of those negative plays. And if the Notre Dame offense can't handle Pitt, then I'm going to wonder, how are they going to handle Ohio State? How are they going to handle Georgia? How are they going to handle Alabama? How are they going to handle Indiana? I need to see this offense against a really good defense finally really shine, something we haven't seen a lot of the second half of the year. And I think there's different reasons for it. There's been injuries up front. You've got a young quarterback. But I really need to see it. I'm not saying that the offense has been bad. I mean, they're top 10 offense in scoring and they're top 10 in efficiency. But as far as competing for a championship where the offense can play well enough to compete for a championship, I need to see them look pretty good this weekend. That's going to be a big one. So just kind of big picture, that's what I feel about the offense. And then, of course, there's some certain keys to making that happen, Trev. And obviously, number one key is going to be Notre Dame needs a fast start in this game.
They absolutely do. And, Bryan, I wanted to echo on something that you were talking about. It's not that they've been bad, and it's not that but level of consistency. When you talk about championship caliber offenses, you have to be consistent. One of those is starting fast consistently. But like we talked about in the team, you also have to remain fast consistently. That is the key for Notre Dame this week, is you have to remain fast. That is where they've lacked consistency. They remain fast against Arkansas. They remain fast for the most part against NC State. They remain fast against Navy. They didn't remain fast against Boise State, nor did they start fast against Boise State. They didn't remain fast against Boston College. And so that's going to be absolutely huge for this offense for a multitude of different reasons. But let's be real about something, man. You look at what this offense has done. They put up 49 points against Navy, but then the week before that, 25 against Boston College. They put up 27 points against USC, 34 against NC State, and then 28 against Boise State. So since the Arkansas game, this team has been very up and down. I mean, it's weird to think that consistently one of the better stretches that they had on offense was against Texas A&M, Purdue, and Arkansas. But we forget about those games so quickly because of what the defense looked like against A&M and Purdue. But that was really the last 3-game stretch that we really watched this offense put it together. And that's what's at stake. You have to be able to start fast in this game. You're on the road in a hostile environment. It's sold out. Pitt Stadium is never sold out. Well, they're sold out on Sundays. They're not sold out on Saturdays. And this is going to be a huge matchup. You got to be able to start fast and jump on this Pitt defense early. Get them out of rhythm. Get them out of what they want to do.
And I really feel like if you can have the kind of start that they're capable of, your confidence takes a big jump. We've talked about this. Momentum is a byproduct of confidence. Great confidence leads to great execution in a lot of instances. Real confidence. That's what momentum is. If you're able to, win the battle up front, then okay, that's going to give you a great shot to start fast and to really dominate this game. And then of course part of starting fast is Mike Denbrock's got to have a great plan and to go at Pitt. And what a mistake a lot of coaches make is they either get too aggressive or, more importantly, they get real passive early, trying to feel Pitt out. What I liked about when Mike Denbrock went against Pitt when he was the offensive coordinator in 2018 or 2015 is he went right at Pitt like immediately. I mean, it's like, okay, you want to come out, play cover one? I mean, because he had gone against Pitt before. He just hadn't really gone against Pitt as the primary play caller. And he was on the team that went against Pitt in 2011 and, 2012, 2013. Like he'd gone against Pitt before. He had definitely gone against Pat Narduzzi when he was at Michigan State, when Pat Narduzzi was in Michigan State. So, Pitt came out early in the game. Mike Denbrock saw they were doing that same kind of press quarters, because the way they used to do it, and they don't do as much of it now, but back when they had those stud corners at Michigan State, they'd play press with their corners, and then they'd play a really aggressive quarters coverage to come down. That's how they were so good against the run, because then they could blitz their linebackers and trigger their linebackers. Well, they tried that against Notre Dame. The problem is when you've got Darqueze Dennard and Trey Wayans, you can get away with that. And he tried that at Pitt, and I was like, bro, you don't have those guys. And so Notre Dame came out in that game, Trev, like right away. Like first drive of the game, 47-yard touchdown pass. Like a minute 11 into the game, and it's Will Fuller over the top for a touchdown. Second quarter, you get another one, 46-yard touchdown pass, Will Fuller over the top for a touchdown, because, again, they're doing that. He went right at Pitt. You got to be willing to do that. But can you protect it like that line could? I mean, the line he had in that game was Ronnie Stanley, Quentin Nelson, Nick Martin, Steve Elmer, and Mike McGlinchey. So, can this line do that? We're going to find out. But a fast start is big. And then, of course, a fast start also is huge for your own defense. It really allows your defense to sit back, pin their ears back, and say, okay, our offense is cooking today. We can really heat these guys up and go be aggressive going at them. So fast start, as always, very important.
Well, if they're able to start fast, one of the ways that they're going to be able to do that is being able to remain balanced. Look, Pitt has one of the best rush defenses in the country. They rank third in the nation in rushing yards allowed per game and first in the country in yards per attempt allowed per game. That's really impressive. If there's one thing that Pat Narduzzi wants to do and be known for on the defensive side of the ball, it's to be able to stop the run. But that doesn't mean that Notre Dame can just go away from the run and just rely on C.J. Carr throwing bombs. We saw that a little bit against Boston College. Jeremiah Love ended with over 100 yards, 94 of it came on one carry. Now, I'm not one of those people that says, oh, if you take that away, it's like, well, I'm not going to take it away because he did it. But with that being said, it was a very inefficient game up until that point.
But that's why you keep at it, though.
Yep.
That's why you don't just give up on the run, because I promise you this, if you don't hand the ball to Jeremiah Love, he has no chance of going for 94 yards. I'm
100%.
Pretty confident saying that. You know what I mean? Like, I know this is like really wicked, smart, and nobody else could have thought of that. But if Jeremiah Love does not have the ball in his hands, he can't go for 94 yards. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's kind of what we're saying is what Notre Dame does not need to do in this game. Like, I've never been those people like, if you got to run the football every single game and I don't care what the other defense does, you're Notre Dame, you find a way to run the ball. That's nonsense. And that's never been true. I could go to every great Notre Dame team ever and give you examples of games where they couldn't run the football because the other team said, we're just not going to let you run the football today. A good team can make you not be able to run the football effectively. So I'm not saying, when I talk about balance, Trev, it's not even saying like they got to run for $175 and throw for $255. That's not what I'm talking about. What you can't do is just abandon the run game. what you have to do is you have to find ways to go at Pitt. Find some things to take advantage of. Sometimes that can mean you come out early and you throw a few over their head and they connect, and all of a sudden Pitt's got some tough choices to make. Like, do you want to die this way or do you want to die that way? All right, cool. You want to play 8 in the box and you're just not going to let Jeremiah Love win the Heisman today? Cool. We're going to have Malachi Field set a pass receiving record, or we're going to have Jordan Faison catch 10, or Will Pauling's going to have 4 for $120. Eli Raridan's going to go off. I mean, like, that's the thing is you can do that, and then Pitt's got to, okay, now they got some choices to make, right? And then, they start adjusting, then you come right back at them. And so sometimes, your run game can be aided by your pass game, but you still have to find ways to be able to run the football. Barring Notre Dame just coming out and CJ Carr's like 13 of 15 for $195 and 3 touchdowns at halftime, you're going to need some level of balance. Not 50% carries, first attempts, 50% yards. It's just they have to be willing to respect it, because if they think that you're just giving up on the run, then that allows them to defend the pass more effectively. You have to find ways to gash them, because you're probably not going to have a highly efficient run game against Pitt. Like, you're probably not going to be 60+% efficiency. If they are, they're going to absolutely annihilate Pitt. Like, this will be a 40-point win. If Notre Dame's around 60+% efficiency in this game will be over by halftime. It's highly unlikely. But give me a couple gash runs. Navy's a perfect example. Navy was not going to let Notre Dame run the football for a bunch of yards, but guess what? They still ran for over 200 yards. Why? Jeremiah Love made that Herculean play, but then also 3rd and 7, you run a quick little dart play, a little quick zone play. Jeremiah gets upfield. Gerby's blocking a guy. Jeremiah kind of spins off of it, goes for 16. Move the chains. Where they know, like, look, man, we just can't sit back there and drop 8 on 3rd and 9, because they'll run the ball up the middle to Jeremiah Love, and he can make us pay for it. So there just has to be a little bit, and balance also includes within the pass game. It can't just be a bunch of bombs. You need some quick games. You need some chain movers. You need some early down, let's get some positive yards plays. Whether it's screen game, whether it's the swing stuff, whether it's the running back out of the backfield, whether it's the mesh concepts, whatever it is, you've got to find some stuff that allows you to attack all levels of the field also. You're just not going to, win this game the way you need to by just hitting 4 bombs, because here's the thing. If you throw for 4 touchdown passes that are 50 yards each, you've got 200 yards and 28 points. May need more than 28 points. You know what I mean? Like, it's, what are you doing in between those plays, those big plays? It's going to be important. That's the difference between a 30, 40-point win and a 7-point win, or a 3-point win, or a loss. Is, and the more times you throw it, the more chances there are that something bad happens. So I just need to see a commitment from Notre Dame to say, we're not going to abandon running the football. Now, if Notre Dame can come out and just dominate on the run with the ground game, great. That's awesome. And then still hit some plays in the pass game. But if Pitt's game plan is what I think it's going to be, I just need you to not abandon running the football. And I don't think Mike Denbrock is that kind of guy, but we still need to talk about it. And then you got to execute it well enough to then go out and have some of those that success.
Yeah, Pitt's going to do everything that they can to make Notre Dame one-dimensional. Notre Dame can't help them in that effort. Can't. That's why remaining balance is so important. But the other facet of being balanced is being able to make plays through the air. And that is something that they're going to have to do in this game to take advantage of Pitt's aggressiveness. It's not a secret as to why. Go ahead.
Were you going to move on to point number 3?
Yeah.
Another thing I was just quickly going to say is, the more willing you are to run the ball, the more you force their linebackers to come down, the more you are going to then have some big play opportunities behind them also. Because if Kyle Lewis is going to be looking for, Lewis is going to be looking for his own highlight reel moments, trying to hit Jeremiah Love. Get him a little bit, but like somebody in the chat, play action all day. Well, play action doesn't work if you're not running the football. If they don't think if they're like, hey, they're going to run the football, then they're not biting on a play action. You know what I mean? If you have a concerted effort to say, hey, we're going to be willing to run the football against you guys. And then the other final piece to that too is, you need a much better designed run game plan than what we've seen in the last few weeks. where it's just mid zone, outside zone, inside zone, duo. Like, give me a pin and pull. Give me something to try to crease this defense. I want to see a better designed run game plan against Pitt than we've seen in recent weeks as well.
One of the other ways that Notre Dame is going to have to stay balanced, yes, not abandoning the run is going to be huge in this one, but Notre Dame is also going to have to make some plays in the pass game. And in order to do that, this offensive line is going to have to protect CJ Carr. Now, you said something about in 2015, they don't have, Ronnie Stanley and Quentin Nelson and Nick Martin and Steve Elmer and Mike McGlinchey. Maybe so, and I agree. I don't know if there's anybody on this offensive line this year that's playing at the level of what Ronnie Stanley was in 2015. What Quentin Nelson was in 2015. But
there's no offensive line in college football as good as the way that his unit played in 2015, especially late in the year. So you're absolutely correct.
But one of the benefits, though, is this Notre Dame offensive line they haven't allowed more than 5 pressures, not hits plus sacks on the quarterback, 5 pressures total in like 6 straight games now. That's really impressive. Actually, since their loss to Texas A&M, they haven't allowed a defense to have over 5 total pressures on this offensive line. Now, they're going to be put to the test because this is a very, very aggressive Pittsburgh defense, and not just with their front 4. They're going to send some of their linebackers too. I mean, Kyle Lewis and Rasheem Biles have combined for 14 tackles for a loss this season. And Rasheem Biles leads the team with 8.5, and he hasn't played in 3 games to tell you how productive he is. So this is definitely going to be a big one, but protecting CJ Carr in this one is going to be absolutely huge, Brian.
Pitt's game plan and strategy is real simple. We're going to attack your line of scrimmage, not let you run the football. And a lot of the pressures that they bring that shut down the run are also meant to go right through the running back to the quarterback if it's a pass play. It's kind of hard to beat you throwing the football when your quarterback's laying on his back, or if he's having to run around and scramble and he can't step into throws. It's very hard to do. And it's simple. Give your quarterback time to throw. If CJ Carr can play from a clean pocket 80+% of the time in this game, like a real clean pocket, this game won't be close, in my opinion. But you start letting Pitt speed up his internal clock, where he's getting pressured a lot and he feels I have to get this ball out quickly. That's when you make mistakes throwing an out cut and it gets undercut and picked off, maybe run back to the house. That's when you rush a ball and you throw a ball before a guy's out of the break and it sails past him and gets picked off by a safety. That's when you start rushing your mechanics and balls get tipped in the air and picked off. That's when you start rushing your mechanics and just simple things like you miss a receiver. Guy's open, but you couldn't get to him because you were kind of everything in your head was sped up. So you locked on that first read and you missed that open route on the backside. That's how you slow down this offense, is get CJ Carr out of rhythm. That's what Pitt's going to do. This isn't rocket science. It's not like, oh my gosh, I need to call Mike Denbrock and make sure he knows. He knows. Believe me, he knows. But can you be sound in your protections? This is going to be a huge test for the offensive line, because this Pitt team is going to slant and twist and stunt all game long. They had problems with that against Navy. And yeah, they did well in pass pro, Trev, but you and I both know that the talent of the guys rushing the quarterback for Pitt is greater than what it was for Navy. It's greater than what it was for Boston College. It's greater than what it was for NC State. I would argue that it's greater than what it was for USC as well. So it's going to come down to, can you step up and handle one-on-one matchups up front, but then also, are you prepared well enough from your offensive line coach to handle all the different games that they're going to throw at you? Is your quarterback prepared to know where the pressure is going to come from, know who you can't block? And what I mean not block is like, man, we can't block that guy, he's too good. No, I mean, hey, if he blitzes, we got 6, that's number 7, that's your guy, quarterback. You got to throw off that guy or manipulate that guy. Those things are all going to be important. If they bring a safety pressure, make him pay for it. Can't make him pay for it if your quarterback doesn't get protected. So it's such a big part of this game, Trev. Such a big part of this game. And 2 and 3 really come down to your offensive line. Your offensive line has to play well in this game, in both facets of the game.
Them performing well in the run game is going to be absolutely huge. Real quick before we move on to point number 4, I agree with you that the level of competition they've faced in terms of pass rushers, not at what they faced at Pitt. But we also talk a lot on the show about how if you play inferior opponents, you're supposed to dominate them. 5
Sure,
total
I'm
pressures
not
in a game
taking
is
anything
crazy.
away from the job that they've done the last month. I don't care who the heck you're playing. You give up 5 pressures a game, that's a pretty darn good flipping job.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is a different kind of test, and it goes
Totally.
back to what I said at the beginning. This is the test that's going to tell me if you're prepared to go play Ohio State, to go play Indiana, to go play the better teams that you're going to face talent-wise on defense down the stretch. That's where I'm coming from. But it doesn't take away from the job they've done.
100%. But what I need to see from this group is you have been playing inferior competition on the defensive line, and your run blocking has not been. And we could talk about design. We could talk about you lacking creativity in the run game, and all that is true. But Notre Dame has been playing some very undersized defensive lines as of late, and they're not getting the push that I thought that they would have along the interior. Not with a 6'8", 325-pound guard and a 6'4", 308-pound center. The Joe Otting that we saw from USC needs to be back. Someone that was just moving people off of the football. That player has to be back in this game, because if not, Jeremiah Love has been forced to make a lot of runs. Like, look, as impressive as Jeremiah Love's 48-yard touchdown run was, where he basically defied the law of physics, you can't count on that every single time he has to crease one. He's been making way too many moves in the backfield in the last couple games. Way too many. So as good as they've been in pass protection, they need to get up to par now as far as run blocking goes. Design will help them at some point, but sometimes you just kind of have to pull your pants up and say, all right, it's time to start moving some bodies. And that's what this offensive line is definitely going to have to do in this one, which if they do their job, they're going to be able to crease this defense and come up with some big plays. That's our 4th point, Brian, is go big play hunting a little bit in this one. And I'm curious to see which direction you take this. Are you talking run game, pass game, all the above for big play hunting?
Your run game design needs to have some wrinkles in it to say, hey, we think if we can crease this thing, it's going to go. Not in ways like normal, like if we get a body on a body, Jeremiah Love can score. That's true every time you touch the ball.
Yep.
I mean, every time Jeremiah Love, you run inside zone, mid zone. I mean, the 98-yard touchdown run against Indiana was just outside zone. Just everybody got a body on a body, and he housed it. The 94-yard touchdown run against Boston College ran the same play mid zone that you've been running all game and not blocking well. But on this particular instance, everybody did their job, and Jeremiah read it, hit it, and housed it. Jadarian Price can do the same thing. But but that's not what I'm referring to. If that happens, then this is going to be a fun day. I'm saying, like, are there some things you've got in the quick game where, look, when they line up like this, we feel confident this guy's coming, and we think we can get them with like a kind of a crack block and get some guys out on the perimeter, and we think we can just catch that sucker, pitch it, and get outside. And if we go for 2, we go for 2. But if we can block this sucker up, we think this can go for 60. I think that that's there. There are some things that they do in coverage where it's like you're going to have some opportunities to hit some big shots and hit some big plays. One way to really go at an aggressive team is to find stuff in the screen game that can get at them. But part of that is you've got to really scout them up and really feel like we got a good read on what looks they like to show. Like, look, when the linebacker's like this, he never comes. When he's like this, it's 50-50. But when he's like this, it's a 70-30 chance he's going to come. And one of the things I broke down in the video that I'm going to put up later today is that little angle route from Jeremiah Love. That was a blitz beater. It was, this guy's coming based on how they're lined up. We know he's coming. So we're going to run this angle route and get Jeremiah Love matched up against this linebacker. Well, lo and behold, that linebacker ended up not covering Jeremiah Love, and he was wide open. But it was a one-on-one in Notre Dame's mind because they knew that they had room to work because they were going to blitz that weak side linebacker away from trips. They had that scouted out pretty well. That's why they were able to hit Malachi Field so many times backside. Like, look, when this guy walks up like this and the safety's here, they're going to bring their backside linebacker. And so we can bang these quick outs and comebacks and stop routes. So you've got to have them pretty well scouted to know, like, this is when we have a shot to do this. When we go in motion. So, like, I think of the first play of the game against USC in 2015 when they ran that post route for a touchdown to Will Fuller. that was meant to be a big play because they knew that, and sometimes you can only get away with this once. And if you don't hit it, then they're still going to adjust to it. They're, like if you run a play and the guy's wide open and the quarterback misses him, they're not going to be like, all right, cool, we're fine. We don't need to adjust at all because he threw an incomplete pass. They're going to say, we caught a break there. We're going to have to still adjust. First play of the game. So it was a simple motion. They knew that if they went out of 11 personnel, if they just went motion across, that they were going to roll their coverage down and leave Will Fuller one-on-one with Adoree Jackson. Notre Dame knew that. And it was a reaction to motion as opposed to just lining up in that alignment. So they motion it, and they knew if they do this a certain way, we're going to have that shot. He went for it. First play of the game, 75-yard touchdown. You know, like hey, if they're doing this, then we have this. If we think we're going to get boundary man with a weak side blitz, maybe we run Jeremiah Love up the wheel. You know, and it doesn't have to be a bomb. Just hit that sucker at 7 yards, and everybody's chasing them. Like, so that's what I mean too, Trev. It's look for ways to hit those big plays. Look for things schematically that gash them. Because if you can hit some big plays early, that not only allows you to move the ball and get points, obviously, but now Pitt's got to really rethink what they're doing. And anytime that your early success can get a team out of what they thought they could do, that's when you really roll. You take them out of your game. And so I think if they can go big play hunting early, get some big plays, run game, screen game, pass game, I don't care. Get Pitt on their heels a little bit. That's how you can really go at Pitt. Because the reality is, Trevor, this is not a real big Pitt football team. Like it's not. And that's part of the reason that they're very athletic, though. But part of the reason they're so aggressive with how they come at you is because they kind of have to be. They don't really have a lot of choice. I mean, you just look at their stud linebackers, right? I mean, Kyle Lewis is what? It's
like 6'1", 2 something.
220. You know, I don't know if Biles is going to play again. He's 220. Braylon Lovelace is 220. Their linebackers aren't real big guys. You know, you look at their D tackles and number 95, really good football player, 6'2", 280. Really good football player, but he's 6'2", 280. You know, you look at a lot of the guys that play for him. Sean Fitzsimmons plays a lot for him, 6'3", 295. He's one of their bigger guys. So, and like a good coaching staff, they know, like, we know who we are. We know what we can and can't get away with. We know we can't go out there against Notre Dame in two gap. And you know what I mean? Like, we know we can't go into this game and say, okay, nose tackles, we need you to occupy both A gaps, you know, against this Notre Dame team. We're going to play some old school Georgia football. You know what I mean? Like, they know they can't do that. And so you've got to be able to say, okay, how do you go at it? How do you attack it? And if you can get them off of what they want to do, Nick James is another stud interior guy for him, 6'2", 280. You know, their edge player, Jimmy Scott. He's one of their bigger linemen, like bulky wise. He's 6'3", 260. That's their big end. This is not a real big defense. So if you can get them on their heels because you hit them with some big plays, and some of this is use motion shifts, get them going this way. Like if you just line up against Pitt all day and do these little quick, simple motions, they're going to pin their ears back and come at you. Do some stuff where the eye discipline of the linebackers is the eyes of the linebackers are doing this pre-snap and post-snap. You know, like run some mesh stuff where they may turn a guy loose because they've got to communicate. Run some post-snap switch stuff against Pitt. You know, run some wheels out of the backfield. You know, use Eli Raridan to do those little quick motions, and instead of him, you know, kind of just going on an under route, have him kind of go up the wheel. They're going to turn him loose. So it's not just normal read and throw the ball deep, which could happen, but it's also have 4, 5, 6 different ways where we think, boy, if we get this look, we want to call this play because we think that sucker can go. And if you can hit those and then get Pitt, and you're already going to have some other things that might go, you get Pitt on their heels a little bit, especially if your defense is doing some things early in the game, that's when now we're going to punish them with the ground game. because now they're on their heels a little bit. Now we got them thinking. Now those linebackers can't just pin their ears back and come at us, because they know, like last time we brought this blitz, they hit Jadarian Price out of the backfield for a 40-yard gain. I say Jadarian Price because they may be less likely to key on Jadarian coming out of the backfield than Jeremiah. We caught him on a blitz and we ran an empty, free release swing screen, and we had 4, they had 3. Bye. Hopefully the Notre Dame band's there and they can start playing the fight song, because that's what's going to happen if you can catch them in some of those things. So that's what I'm looking for, Trev. It's not just, hit some big plays. That's important. But, like, you're looking for those things. You're like, I can't, if I want to go big game hunting in real life, I'm not going to do that from my couch, right? Because I want to. I got to go out and go hunting. That's what I'm talking about. You're looking for those things. You're going out and finding those opportunities, creating those opportunities. That's what I want to see.
That's what makes this matchup so interesting with Pitt's D-line, is they're not big, but that's been the common denominator of really every defensive line that Notre Dame has faced since Arkansas. And I would argue that some of the most dominant football they played was against Arkansas, against defensive tackles that were, one was close to 400 pounds. He was 13 pounds away from being 400 pounds. But Notre Dame has played a lot of undersized defensive lines lately, especially in the interior, and that's what makes this matchup so interesting. Landon Robinson isn't a big guy. He's 6 foot 287. He gave Notre Dame's defense quite a bit of fits. USC didn't have a single starting interior defensive lineman that was over 296 pounds. And they, for a little bit of time until Notre Dame really took it over, kind of struggled, but they were longer. They were like 6'5", 6'4".
Who struggled? Notre Dame against USC?
I was saying, like, the common trend is against undersized defensive lines, they've struggled. USC's a lighter defensive line, but they're longer. Like, so they were able to get under the pads. Yeah. And so they really busted it open. They rushed for 300 yards.
Right.
But they struggled against Navy. They struggled against Boston College. There were no 6'5", 300-pounders on those defensive lines. And there's not going to be a 6'5", 300-pounder on this defensive line. And so this is the test. Like, it's weird to think that when you have interior linemen that are 6'7", 335, 6'4", 308, and 6'8", 325, the defensive units that they struggle with are the 6'1", 280-pounders. This is a big show me game, because they showed me against Arkansas that they can handle their business against a 6'5", 387-pound Ian Gefford.
Yeah.
And a 6'5", 330-pound Cameron Ball, who is not.
Two of the guys that were part of that dominance aren't playing now. That's true. That, and to your point, I'd have a very different opinion about this game if Ashton Craig and Billy Strouth were still playing.
Yeah, agreed. Or at least Billy Strouth. All due respect to Sullivan Absher, but Billy Strouth's last performance against USC was dominant.
And he's been pretty darn good most of the year. But yeah, the USC game, he was at the top of his game. Yeah,
on one knee.
And Ashton was arguably their most consistent offensive lineman this year before his injury.
100%.
So, like you said, it's a big test because we don't know if this unit can do that, Trev.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Final key, Bryan, is finishing. And this is one that I'm holding near and dear to my heart, because we've watched this team do that once. Well, this offense once in the last 4 games. I'm not ready yet to say they did it against Navy. This is just who they are. What's up, playoffs? This is your last real test before you get to the playoffs. All due respect to Syracuse and Stanford. All due respect. And you have to be able to finish in this, especially on the road. Finishing has been an issue on the road, and it's been an issue, really 3 out of their last 4 games. Moving the ball is not an issue for this unit.
Hasn't been all year.
Never has. They're 3rd in the country in yards per play. Even right now, this is actually a new feature. I didn't know that they had this, but FanDuel now has over-unders for team yards that you can bet on in this game. Notre Dame's over-under is set at 445.5. So they know that they're going to be able to move this ball with some sort of efficiency. That's never been their issue. It's finishing once you get inside of the scoring zone. That is going to be huge for them. Eric Schmidt got off to a better start. Notre Dame went 4-4 in the red zone. Technically on the stat sheet, they went 4-5, but their last possession in the red zone ended in a kneel down. So I'm not counting that as them going 4-5. In my eyes, when they were attempting to score, they went 4-4 in the red zone. So this is huge. You got to be able to finish, especially on the road, for all the reasons that we just listed out. for as many big plays as I'm sure that they're going to hit, because this is a big play offense, that's just, it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely going to be huge, man.
Trevor, you're the odds of you having 6 or 7 touchdowns that are all outside the 25, it's possible. But,
Could happen.
But like, I'd rather not have to rely on that all the time. I'd rather not have it to be a situation where, well, if you don't score from 4, I mean, yeah, that worked against Pitt against Arkansas, but I don't think that's a recipe to consistent success. And with all due respect, Pitt has a much better defense than Arkansas does. So, yeah, I want to see this team be more methodical. I want to see this team hit those big, those finish off drives that way. And we talked about the big plays that Notre Dame had against Pitt in 2015, but they also won like 8 of 14 on third down. They had a 12-yard touchdown pass in that game. They had a 14-yard touchdown pass in that game. They had a 5-yard touchdown pass in that game. They had a 2-yard touchdown run in that game. They did the simple things as well. They didn't have to settle for field goals, and they didn't have to throw the ball. Now, of course, that offense was far from perfect because they had what 4 red zone turnovers against Boston College a few weeks later. You know what I mean? But the Pitt game was that way. If you're moving the ball early against Pitt and you're selling for field goals instead of touchdowns, you are not having the start that you're capable of. You're allowing Pitt's fans to stay in the game. You're allowing Pitt to stay confident in that game. You allow them to stay on top of what they're trying to do, and it makes it a lot harder for you to really put them away the way that you're capable of. Like the BC game, I got to listen to all these knuckleheads online. Well, you guys barely beat Boston College. I'm like, first of all, I don't say you guys because I don't play for Notre Dame, first of all. Second of all, that's what's so frustrating because, like, they dominated that game from the 10 to the 10. I mean, it's like you fumble the ball inside the 5, you miss a field goal, you miss 3 extra points, and it's like if it's 38-10, that's not the dominant win it should have been, but nobody's like, you barely beat Boston College. Nobody's saying that. And I want to see that in this game too. I want to see them absolutely dominate Pitt in this game. And you can't do that if you're turning the ball over in the red zone, if you're selling for field goals instead of touchdowns. Like, I don't want to see that. Got to finish, Trev. Such an important part of this game. And then the other things about finishing go into this. Finishing off blocks. If you almost got a guy out of the hole and then you stop your feet, then Jeremiah Love doesn't have that extra 4 inches he needs to crease that sucker. Finish off a pass play. Don't just rely on getting a pass interference when you can go up and outplay that guy for the ball and get 40. You know what I mean?
Finish routes.
Yes.
If CJ Carr gets time, he will hit you backside.
Don't freaking jog off the line because you don't think you're a primary option. Like, all those things are important in this game, man. Anthony Knapp, guy beat you on the outside, finish him off, just ride him all the way out, right? The play didn't start off well for you, but if you can win at the end and finish the play off, then hey, it's a great play. So all those things are part of what I'm talking about here, Trev, where this football team has got to come out and say, we're bigger than you, we're faster than you, we're better than you, and we're going to prove it.
Yes.
Like, I think this team knows that offensively, but I don't know that they always know that they have to then go prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the key.
Folks, that's going to do it for part 3 of today's show. Don't go anywhere. We are getting ready to talk keys to victory on defense. But before we get there, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know whenever we go live. Whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review. But as always, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. All right, Bryan, in part 4 of today's show here on the Irish Breakdown podcast, brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. We are talking the keys to victory for Notre Dame's defense in their noon matchup this Saturday against the Pittsburgh Panthers, 22nd ranked team in the country, inside of Acrisure Stadium. Now, Notre Dame's defense has really found a groove. And over the last 5 games, I put an article out earlier this week talking about how dominant they've been, and it's comparable to some of the other perceived or the actual top defenses in the country. It's right up there with them, and in some cases better, depending on what numbers you're looking at. But Like we said with the offense, this is going to be your final big test of the regular season. I don't care what this defense does against Stanford. I don't. I just want them to come out and play a clean game. I don't care what this defense does, especially now with Steve Angeli out. I don't care what they do against Syracuse. And Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman has been extremely dominant in senior day games. This performance right here is the closest thing that you're going to get to playoff level competition before you actually get to the playoffs. Has to be a big week for the defense.
You know, it's funny how things change over the course of a long season because, I mean, we were talking about NC State, you know, like this is the show me game, right, to a degree. And then USC was that way. Like, I really need you to show me against a really good offense. I think this defense has done enough against Arkansas and Boise State and NC State, and who hung like 30-something on Pitt, by the way. You saw what they did to Georgia Tech a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, yeah, they lost to Duke, but they scored a bunch of points in that game. You know, I mean, like what Notre Dame did to that NC State team is not like what other teams. I mean, NC State's lost games. They've never lost a game this season where their offense just got absolutely embarrassed and just completely thoroughly outplayed. I mean, like, you know, like just that doesn't happen. So I think this defense has done enough and consistently enough. I mean, Navy came into last week's game with one of the highest scoring offenses in college football. Notre Dame held them to 10. So, like, okay, Blake Horvath plays. Maybe that's good to get them to 17 to 20. Maybe. That's still way under their season scoring average. So, you know, like this stretch has been really impressive. It's not so much you got to prove something to me. It's just stay focused, stay locked in, keep doing what you're doing. That's going to be a big part of this game, Trevor. It's not you got to show me that you're good enough to go here. I mean, this is a test for the defense. This is a good receiving corps. If Desmond Reed's healthy, this is one of the more dynamic running backs you're going to face, including in the postseason. Yeah. It's a big physical offensive line. This is a good, talented young quarterback. And Cade Bell is a guy that really impresses me as a young offensive coordinator. Like, he's an up-and-comer. Like, I like what this guy does schematically, formationally, motion, shifts, tempo, all those things. This is a challenge. It's not prove something to me. It's, dude, if you're a championship football team, these are the kind of weeks where you step up and show it. They did that against NC State. They did that against USC. I mean, if you really think about it, if you take away just 3 of the blown coverages against USC, which is not all of them, USC doesn't even come close to being in that game. Like, other than, I mean, there's a lot of plays where Notre Dame dominated USC. At 7 or 8 plays where USC ripped off big plays. Outside that, USC did nothing against Notre Dame's defense. Like, that's kind of, I mean, including one of those plays, it's like the quarterback just turns around and chucks it like he's throwing it out of bounds, and Notre Dame turns the guy loose. You know what I mean? Like, not lined up correctly and hit a big play on 3rd down. Like, stuff like that. That wasn't USC making plays. That was just like Notre Dame not doing what they needed to do. It's just, look, if you're trying to compete for a championship, it's games like this where your unit steps up and says, hey, we got this, coach.
Yeah.
Like, turn us loose. Let us keep doing what we're doing. If you're Chris Ash, don't sit back and, you know, play passive football. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Turn them loose. Have a sound game plan that's aggressive and go after this team because, you know, and just make the statement that, hey, like, this is who we are, right? Like, I know what we were, but this is who we are. And they've been doing that for week after week after week after week.
I think that's really well said, man. Nothing left to prove. Now you have to show, like, this game will lock in if this is the standard for this defense. Mm-hmm. No steps back. It's all moving forward. And how do they do that? Let's jump into keys to victory here. First one, they're going to have to make Pitt one-dimensional. It starts with stopping the run game. That's going to be huge.
You know, it's kind of funny, Trev. A lot of times against USC when Lincoln Riley's been there, stopping the run's been one of my keys to victory. Like, hold on a second. Like, this is a team that wants to throw the ball all the time. Yeah, I know. I get that. But the fact that they're not a great running team means you have to make sure that they're even worse at it because you need to make sure that they aren't able to establish that balance because them just throwing the ball all over the yard might have been good enough for Pitt to beat NC State. It might have been good enough for Pitt to beat Syracuse. It might be good enough for Pitt to beat Florida State, Boston College, and you know, teams like that. But you know what? It's not good enough to beat Notre Dame. And also, for part of the time that they haven't been able to run the football has been times when Desmond Reed hasn't been healthy. Well, I anticipate him being healthier for this game. He didn't play against Stanford from what I've been able to gather. he was probably could have gone, sat him that game, rested him, had the bye week. Now you get him back. So you got to come out in this game and say, hey, guys, we're going to dominate you up front. You're not going to run the football. You're going to have to throw the football. The other thing, too, is making them one-dimensional means they're not going to not run. Like, they're not going to come out in this game and throw the ball 75 times with 0 rushing attempts. So when they do run, it's a -1, a -2, a +1. So now when they are trying to throw the ball on 2nd and 3rd down, it's 2nd and 11, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 12, 2nd and 13. You know what I mean? And that's what hurt USC is USC was able to make some big plays, but they were just constantly playing behind the sticks. And it wasn't enough for them to be able to go out there and get enough points to beat Notre Dame on a night when Notre Dame's offense wasn't even playing very well because the defense just kept them behind the sticks because of how much they just dominated the run game. You do that, and that puts a lot more pressure. Like there's a lot of pressure on this freshman quarterback anyway. You completely take the run game out of this thing, including him running, which he can do. And I don't really include the scramble against Syracuse as a run, but it kind of serves a similar purpose, but you gotta not let them get those yards on the ground. You just dominate them like you've kind of done to everybody else. Do that, and that puts a way more pressure on this quarterback. And then that kind of leads into number 2 point, Trevor, is if you're dominating the front, you got to have stuff that's built into that to make sure that you're also getting after the quarterback. Because if you can shut down the run game and not let this kid feel comfortable in the pocket, I mean, honestly, we could stop the keys to victory at these first 2. We won't, but these are the 2 most important things, and they kind of go together, Trev.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Mason Heinzel has done a lot of good things this year. He is still a true freshman. In similar ways, like so is C.J. Carr. I think C.J. Carr is ahead of where Mason Heinzel is at. And that's no shot at Mason Heinzel. I just think that C.J. Carr is for Notre Dame, a generational type of prospect starting at quarterback right now. Mason Heinzel is a good player. He's done a lot of good things this year. That being said, his lack of experience, he can't handle pressure that well. Like I'm talking physical pressure. He has 5 interceptions on the season. Their lack of ability to run the football doesn't help. He's only completing 56% of his passes and has thrown 2 picks off of play action. Why? It's because they are the 104th ranked team in the country in rushing yards per game, 112th in yards per attempt. It's not great. So if you take the run away and you're able to light them up, get pressure on them, and that doesn't mean Notre Dame has to end this game with 7 sacks. Not going to be mad if that happens. Yeah, exactly.
I won't be upset about it, Trev. Yes.
But all signs are pointing in the directions of this needs to be a game that this defense has to light up Mason Heinzel. Specifically the defensive line. You have Boubacar Traore coming off of a game where he just didn't play a snap. Doesn't get a whole lot fresher than that. He went bye week, Boston College, 3rd bye week. Now he gets to play Pitt, going up against the right tackle that has allowed quite a bit of sacks and hits on the quarterback through the first, not even the first, really for the majority of the season. We still have yet to see an interior pass rusher come alive. I'm calling my shot right now. I think Donnie Heinisch is going to have a good homecoming game going back to Pitt.
Would love that.
I do
love that. I mean, because he's got to be chomping at the bit a little bit too, Trev, because he hasn't played the last couple weeks.
Nope. And
it hasn't been it wasn't a knee, it wasn't a back, it wasn't a shoulder, it was a concussion, which is significant and concerning for him. What I mean by it not being a good thing is not that it's never good when a kid gets a concussion. What I mean is he's not rehabbing a knee. He's not rehabbing an ankle, a back, a shoulder that could get re-aggravated. You know what I mean? Like concussions, I mean, there are some people that once you get the first couple, then they'd start coming more regularly, but it's not like a re-injuring your knee. It's a different deal. But I didn't even think about Donovan Heinisch and the fact that, 2 of your best pass rushers are going to be very what's the word I'm looking here, Trev? Feeling a little chomping at the bit a little bit, like wanting to get on the field.
Motivated.
Yeah. It's literally your 2 best pass rushers. They're 1 and 2 in pressures this season. Boubacar and Donovan Heinisch are. And also they're going to be a little bit fresh because they didn't have to play a bunch last week. So Yeah, in everything we talked about in the first segment with CJ Carr, with what Pitt's going to try to do to him, speed up his process, get him thrown off his back foot more because he's thinking that things are coming.
Yep.
Not sure where the pressure's coming from. Not finding that open backside dig because his internal clock is so sped up that he's rushing throws, throwing blind. All those things that we talked about how Pitt is going to try to do to CJ Carr, Notre Dame needs to do the same thing to Mason Heinchel. And if you're able to do that, he will turn the ball over. I mean, this has been a fun kid to watch, Trev. Like, he is a good young quarterback. And he just has this I don't give a rip mentality. And if you pick him off a couple times, I don't think that's going to rattle him, but it's going to help you score more points. So, you know what I mean? It's not like if you get to him early and you hit him and you have him turn it over, he's going to get rattled. I don't know if this kid seems pretty inflappable to me. He's thrown picks and he comes back after throwing picks and leads you down on touchdowns. But practically speaking, if he's throwing picks, he doesn't. I don't care if he's rattled or not. You've got the ball, and your offense is back on the field. And so, but it's just about speeding up his process because he's still young. And when you look at his numbers, Trev, on the season, according to PFF, he's completing 38.6% of his pressures. He's completing 38.6% of his passes when he's under pressure. 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. CJ Carr has been a little better than that. He's 43.5%, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks when under pressure. Like, but that's kind of a thing. Like, that's true for a lot of people. Jay, would you and I agree, Trev? Would you agree with me that Jaden Maiavis had a pretty darn good year for USC?
Yeah.
All right, he's 39% completions, no touchdowns, and 4 picks when under pressure. So I mean, this isn't just about this kid specifically. That's just college football. When you play good teams and if you pressure a guy, he's gonna have a harder time beating you. I mean, look what that was the whole goal of the Patriots whenever they played against Peyton Manning. It's like, dude, just don't let him get comfortable. Don't let him get into a rhythm. Don't let him feel good about where he's at. So if you can do that, but especially when you can do it to a freshman, you're gonna really make him pay and have a big game. So I want to see them heat up the quarterback. And honestly, what do the 1 and 2 come down to? Dominate up front. I mean, this is that game where Al Washington's unit's got to just feel like like, okay, this is an us game. This is us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is us. This is about us.
Yeah. They're able to do those first 2 things, Brian, especially dominate up front. That's going to go a long way into our third key to victory here for this defense. It's getting them to third down. Mm-hmm. Look, Pitt is not a good third down offense. They rank 101st in the country. They convert third downs at a 36.6% clip. And I went and looked. They don't get to a lot of third downs. They rank, where were they, 60-something in the country?
Yeah.
At getting to now, it's like 123 attempts, 69th in the country, getting to third down. So, and they've played 10 games. A lot of teams in those stats have only played 9 games. So, little context there to help you out. But all of that means that Notre Dame has to get this team to third down. And you're going to do a good way of doing that by stopping the run, making them one-dimensional, and getting Mason Heinchel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is, Trev, and getting him into third downs where it's not where the run pass option is not there anymore. I mean, that's going to be a big thing. It's wild looking at their stats. I mean, they have some very weird stats. You and I were talking about this before the show. But when you look at Pitt on offense, it's like there's some things on there statistically. Let's actually pull this up, this graphic we were looking at yesterday. But there's some things that they do offensively that like are really impressive. I mean, offense, look, they rank 6th in college football in scoring and points per game. They rank in the top 40 in yards per game. They are 22nd in the country in most plays of 30 yards or more. They are 15th on fourth down. They're 11th in passing yards, 17th in passing yards per completion. They're 39th in quarterback rating. They're 17th in most passing plays of 17 yards or more. Like, you notice there's not a lot of rankings in like the 40s and 50s there. There's like 40s, 50s, and 60s, 30s, 40s. They have 1 ranking in the 30s, 2, They have one ranking in the 40s, none in the 50s, none in the 60s. So it's like they're either really good or really bad, and like the third down thing is like, you see the number. The more times you can get them in third and medium to third and long, the better your chances of getting off the field are. 100%. That's absolutely positively true, Trev. And we'll see if Notre Dame can kind of get them there. Because like it is funny. There's a lot of similarities between these two teams. Because like Notre Dame, for example, we've talked about this on offense. Like they've been pretty good on third down this year. They ranked 25th in college football on third down. Do you know where Notre Dame ranks in most third down opportunities?
Like dead last in the country?
Close. They're 134th, and they're only 2 ahead of Ohio State and 3 ahead of Cincinnati. And it's just like they're closer to the team that's in last than the team that's in front of them, Illinois. And a big part of that is because why? They don't get to a lot of third downs. Why? Because a lot of big plays. They just keep moving the chains. They have a very high yards per play average, very high yards per pass attempt, very high yards per completion, all those kind of things. And so they don't get to a lot of those situations. Part of the reason that Pitt has gotten into so many more third down opportunities than Notre Dame, and they're like, again, they don't have a bunch of them, but there's still a lot more than Notre Dame. They've got 98, so that'd be 20. You said they're 123, right? So it's 25 more than Notre Dame, and they've played the same number of games. Notre Dame has been over 11 twice all year. Pitt's been over 11 in each of Mason Heinzel starts. So if you can get them into more third down opportunities, the better chance you have of getting off the field. It's pretty simple, and I think those numbers kind of make that pretty obvious.
One of the other things that you mentioned when we were talking about their third down offense, it's limiting big plays, and specifically known blown coverages. We talked about that when they went up against USC, but this is a receiving core that can hurt you. It is. I mean, I think I said, I'm going to go look real quick, but I said it yesterday in the show. I think 3 of their receivers, Kenny Johnson and Raphael Williams are projected to have more receiving yards than Malachi Fields and Will Pauling and Eli Raridan and Jeremiah Love on FanDuel, which I thought was also interesting. But one way to make sure that those unders hit is limiting those big plays because they're going to take their shots. That's for sure.
Part of the reason that Pitt ranks 169th in the country in third down opportunities, fewest third down opportunities, is because they hit a lot of big plays. Let's just go ahead and bring that graphic back up here again, Trev, while we're talking about it. Because look, that's who they are. They rank 22nd in the country in most plays of 30 yards or more. And if you look at the data here, let's go and pull that up. Long scrimmage plays, 30 yards or more. Pitt is 22nd. Notre Dame is 6th. Again, a lot of similarities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the teams that are either tied or ahead of Pitt have played 10 games. So this is what they want to do. They want to hit big plays. And for Pitt, they're going to hit some plays, Trev. They're going to have some 15 to 30-yard gains. They're good enough to make those plays. They're schemed well enough to make those plays. But what you have to do is you have to limit those big plays, not let them get a bunch of them. Don't get them into 3rd and 11 and allow them to complete an 18-yard pass, or a 30-yard pass. Don't have them backed up at their own 5 and they run a play action and just beat you over the top because you're not disciplined and they gain 35 or something like that. But the other thing too is you've got to make them earn those big plays. One of the frustrating things about the USC game was there were a couple times USC guys just made great plays. Like Jacoby Lane just whooped Christian Gray on that one deep route for a touchdown. That's a good route. Christian didn't play it well and he got beat. Mekhi Lemon beat Leonard Moore once on a slant route, gained 27 yards. That's a good route, good throw, good catch. Like you got me. That's going to happen. But if those are the only 2 big plays USC had, that's a 20-something point win, even with Notre Dame having their issues in the red zone. What allowed them to score was the other dumb stuff. They're in 3rd and 9 on the first drive. I think it was 3rd and 9 on the first drive, and they converted 3rd down because you're not even lined up. You just let a guy loose. You're about to get off the field. You got the quarterback scrambling, and he literally just turns around and throws the ball towards the sideline, and just nobody covers to Nook Hines, and he goes over and catches it. You had that blown coverage on Mekhi Lemon over the middle where just the safety is supposed to squeeze down and doesn't squeeze down. Those are the things you can't allow to happen. Make them earn everything that they get, because I just don't think they're good enough against Notre Dame's talent to score a bunch of points and move the ball up and down the field all game, unless you're giving them short fields because your own turnovers or because you're making mistakes. You get grabby instead of playing the ball. You panic and you get grabby and you let the guy catch the ball on you, or you get a 15-yard penalty or things like that. Like, be smart, execute, trust your technique, trust the scheme, trust the guy next to you, and do your job. Don't let them get the easy things because you didn't do your job. And if you do that, then you are going to limit the big plays. And if you limit the big plays and you make them one-dimensional, then Pitt's going to have a real tough time moving the ball consistently enough to beat Notre Dame. If you don't play sound defense and you can't get pressure on a quarterback, then they're good enough to make a lot of those plays. And then if you also have the lack of discipline that give up some plays that are just, they run an inside zone, guy cuts it back because your linebacker backside doesn't properly fit or your safety doesn't properly fit, and he runs for 25 yards. Dude, come on. Like, you can't do that. If you limit those things, Trev, actually eliminate those things, those mistakes, and then make them earn the plays they get, they'll make some plays, but you're going to shut them down enough to go out there and win this game and win it convincingly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a key word in that whole thing is limit. It's unrealistic. Like, Pitt's a good opponent. If Notre Dame was playing Kent State, I would say yes, 0 big plays. You should not give up a big play to Kent State. But what you can't do is do what you did against Texas A&M and give up 9 of them. Texas A&M had over 200 total yards of offense on 7 plays. That can't happen. But yes, when you play quality opponents, they're going to get theirs. It's just going to happen. It's going to happen in the postseason. It's going to happen on Saturday, but you have to limit it. I agree. Agreed completely. Last one here, Bryan, and this is something that Notre Dame's defense has done a really, really good job of, especially lately, is they have to get the football, have to attack the football, because they will have opportunities to get turnovers.
And this is the final one, Trev, because if you make them one-dimensional and you're able to heat up the quarterback, you get them in some 3rd and long situations, that's when he's going to turn the ball over more. And it's sometimes I like to think that I have some really good insights and some things that my coaching background allows me to see that maybe others who don't have the same background can see. And sometimes it's like, dude, just everybody kind of knows this, and when you look at a kid like this who does so many good things, the one thing you want to do is try to force him into some turnovers and some mistakes. And he's been prone to do that. He had 2 interceptions against Stanford and, had 2 interceptions in the game against Florida State. Well, just so happens that in the 5 wins since he's become the starter, just so happens, Trevor, that those are the 2 closest games that they've had. You know what I mean? Like, they beat Florida State by 3 points, and they beat Stanford by 15 in a game, where, Stanford scored last, but it's like, it was 21-13 at halftime. Why? Turnovers. Pitt had 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. So they're going to put the ball on the ground. They rank 113th in college football in turnovers this year. They have 16 turnovers on the season. If you can have that be the case in this game, you will not only win, but you'll probably win big, unless your offense does the same thing. But they've had 3 games of multiple turnovers this year. They turned it over. You want to know why they lost to Louisville by a touchdown? 5 turnovers. They had 4 turnovers against Stanford, 2 turnovers against Florida State. Get the ball. Because if your offense gets extra possessions, that's when this game gets out of hand. Because you're giving your offense, instead of 9 possessions, you get 12. That's how Notre Dame gets to 50. You know what I mean? That's how this game gets out of hand.
Like you said, sometimes in sports, football specifically, it's sometimes it's a pretty complicated game. Other times it's pretty simple. And turning the ball over is going to go a long way. Notre Dame has done a really good job of that lately. They're now the number 3 team in the country in interceptions generated. And I think one of the teams ranked above them is North Texas. So Notre Dame is the best team in the country in getting interceptions. The one thing that I would like to see in this game, not necessarily a key to victory. It is a key to victory, but one of the things that would be nice to see is them a little bit more active trying to strip the football. They only have 2 fumble recoveries on the season, and that's been one that's been interesting.
And it's not even like the ball's hitting the ground a lot. You're just not getting to it. The ball's just not hitting the ground a lot. So like that's been kind of an interesting aspect of it, Trevor, is it just doesn't. I mean, Notre Dame ranks 61st in the country in forced fumbles. That's not fumbles recovered. That's just forced fumbles with 6. So Pitt's got 6 as well. So that has been a little bit of an interesting thing. It really has.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Bryan and I will be back tomorrow. We're going to be talking game predictions. Never mind. Super chat from our friend Charlie Weiss's Last Belt Loop. Thank you for the super chat, Charlie. Aaron Donald is getting his jersey retired and is a guest picker. That team will be hyped up, the crowd, etc. Coach Freeman needs to get the boys ready to roll. Go IB.
Appreciate you, Charlie. I also have a quick announcement to make. So tomorrow my wife is having minor surgery. It's an oral surgery. And so she's going to be on some stuff coming out of the surgery. So I should be home before 1 o'clock, but just in case, we're going to start tomorrow's show at 2 o'clock, just in case. So that way we don't say 1 and then have to move it back. So we're just going to plan on going at 2 tomorrow. If there's a small chance that they may cancel the surgery, if it does, we will then go at our normal 1 o'clock time. That's why, Trev, you need to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you got the notification bell on. Make sure you're also a board member, because I'll go announce that on our board if we're going to move the time. But the plan right now is that we're going to go at 2 o'clock tomorrow, so I can get my my wife home after her little. So like I said, it's nothing major, nothing life threatening. It's a surgery on her mouth for something that's going on. So she'll be okay. Nothing major, but like I said, she's gonna be on some stuff. So she's not going to be in a place to drive after the surgery. So I will be bringing her home. So I just want to give people a heads up on that about tomorrow's start time.
All the more reason to have that notification bell hit, right, Bryan?
That's absolutely correct, Trevor.
Also, a good reason to be subscribed to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. On top of show updates and game recaps, Bryan also has film studies out. He has film breakdowns that are going to be up on the message board, so you're definitely going to want to.
Run game from Navy was yesterday. I'll have the pass game one coming up here in a couple hours. Got some breakdown, some of the big plays from the pass game, a couple missed opportunities. All 22 film, dive into it, really get into that stuff. So it's going to be a fun one.
Make sure you hop over tonight onto IB Nation Sports Beat. They're going through their midweek mailbag today, so you're not going to want to miss that either. Go and get your questions answered. And then tomorrow, Bill Bender and Bill Trocchi are going live on the CFP Nation channel in the morning to preview all of the games coming up this weekend. And then Vince and I are going live tomorrow night for this week's edition of the Spread Option. So make sure you're subscribed to the CFP Nation channel as well. But until next time, that's Bryan. I'm Trevor. We'll see you back here very soon on the Irish Breakdown podcast.